Part 72. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 712. Chen Lele couldn't understand what she was feeling in her heart. She clutched her chest. She had obviously relived her life. She was not really a naive girl of 16 or 17 years old, but she couldn't help but sneer at this moment. The feeling of being robbed of her sweetheart made Chen Lele feel a little unhappy, and she was a little angry when she spoke. Even though she endured it again and again, Lily still heard it. Chen Lele has not been very talkative since they just had dinner. Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian were thinking about Fen Ning, and their hearts were racing like deer. They didn't realize anything was strange about her, and they didn't do anything. Before they had time to talk to her, they were shocked that Lily's boyfriend was not as poor and outstanding as they imagined. After returning to the dormitory, the three of them didn't speak much until Chen Lele spoke about Fen Ning's restaurant. When the car got off, Yu Xiaotian couldn't help but ask. "Lele, is that car expensive? What's the origin of the license plate?" "The car is not particularly expensive, more than 3 million. If it is modified, it may be more expensive, but the key is the license plate. Even if you have money, you can't get it," Chen Lele replied. She came from a good background, and Chen's father still he recognized his illegitimate daughter who was away from home, so he was very generous to her, the only daughter in his name. In addition, Chen Lele began to consciously save money since he was reborn last year. Now he has saved several million. It's not that they can't afford such an off-road vehicle, but for Chen Lele, more than 3 million is just a small amount, but for Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian, this amount is a sky-high price, and both of them were stunned. He blinked, too surprised to recover. The two couldn't help but drag Chen Lele to ask about the license plate. Chen Lele had no intention of chatting with them at the moment. But Lily stood in front of the cabinet and kept looking for something and ignored them. Chen Lele felt an inexplicable depression and unwillingness in her heart. She was holding her breath and couldn't get out, seeing Lily ignoring herself. He had no choice but to hold back the anger in his heart while explaining to Yang Li and his wife the origin of the Beijing license plate number. Generally speaking, the license plate number is also very particular. Rich people like the license plate number to be more auspicious. Ordinary people's license plates are only randomly selected, but some really good license plates require money to buy, and the top-level license plates are usually retained and distributed to powerful people, so the license plate of the car driven by Fen Ning it is something that even if you have money, you can't get it. Any license plate that is slightly lower than this license plate needs to be auctioned for money. A good license plate is not much cheaper than the price of a luxury car. The license plate of the car that Fen Ning drives is better than those so-called good license plates that are put up for auction, so it can be seen that Fen Ning's background is not bad. Hearing these words, Yang Li's hearts trembled. This kind of people and things that seemed to be completely different from the world they originally came from attracted their attention. They both listened attentively, and from time to time they uttered words of admiration. When the voice came, Lily rummaged through the cabinet for a long time. She always did things in a regular manner. The reason why she didn't throw away the silver ring given by Fen Ning a year ago was because she thought it could be kept as a token of the relationship between the two. I believe that if it were the original owner, she would be eager to keep something as a souvenir. So she packed it up without wearing a ring on the back. After going to college, Zoe's mother packed the original luggage for her, and now she found it after rummaging through it. The silver ring was packed in a small transparent plastic bag. Regardless of wearing it or not, Lily first made sure the ring was with her, and then took out the mobile phone in the cabinet to charge it. Just turned on the machine. A bunch of text message alerts rang. Except for some system spam messages, they were all sent by Fen Ning. He had already sent the message last night. He said that he had a day off and was going to come over to see her today. Because Lily didn't reply to the message, Fen Ning was a little anxious and asked her why she turned off the phone. The most recent one was sent not long ago. Before Lily could finish scrolling the message, the phone rang. It was Fen Ning. Several people in the dormitory subconsciously stopped talking and looked towards Lily. Lily answered Fen Ning's call. As soon as Fen Ning's call was answered, Fen Ning's voice calling wife came over. "Miss me?" "No," Lily replied honestly. They had just separated not long ago, how could she possibly remember it? Fen Ning paused when he heard her answer. Even without seeing her through the phone, Lily could guess that the expression on Fen Ning's face was a bit unpleasant. He paused for a long time before feeling depressed. "Anyway, I will miss you as much as you miss me, but my wife, please remember to miss me next time." He should be in the car, and the car should be driving very fast. The sound of the car speeding through the microphone reached Lily's ears. From yesterday's text message, Lily knew that Fen Ning only had one day to rest. It took him some time to rush back to the capital, and now he has to rush back tomorrow morning. He probably didn't sleep in the middle 24 hours, nor did he have a good meal. It was just the two of them who had made an appointment before. When they had dinner together, Fen Ning mostly focused on her and stared at her. Thinking of this, Lily softened her tone and told him to drive well. When Fen Ning heard her words on the other end, there was a sudden breaking sound, and he breathed a little quickly. "Daughter-in-law, say it again," he made a somewhat overbearing request, but at the end it sounded like a beg. He lowered his voice to coax her, "Say it again to my brother, be good. Be careful when driving." Lily couldn't help but smile, and repeated it again. In the past, when she was with Fen Ning, she was cold and indifferent most of the time, and she didn't say sweet words very much, so now just told Fen Ning to drive well, and he became so excited. "Daughter-in-law, I miss you. I really want to go back and tie you to my side right now and not let you leave." Fen Ning's voice was a little frustrated. He had always been high-spirited, proud, and unrestrained, but now his tone was extremely deep. After a while he seemed to have remembered something and almost jumped up. "I forgot to turn on the recording, please say it again." Lily was silent and stopped talking. Fen Ning on the other end of the phone was asking her to say something again. Lily had no choice but to repeat it. When she heard two rings on the other end of the phone, Fen Ning kissed the phone hard. There was a chirping sound, and just when he was about to hang up, Fen Ning asked Lily to take a picture of her wearing a ring. The military academy where Fen Ning was located was a certain distance away from the imperial capital. He was late when he left yesterday, so now even if he drove back, he might not be able to make it in time, but at this moment he stopped the car and chatted with Lily on the phone with great interest. Talking about this, Lily took out the ring, put it on, took a picture with her mobile phone and sent it. The time may really be it was too late. Fen Ning kissed her several times after receiving the photo, and finally waited reluctantly for Lily to hang up the phone. "Lily, is this your boyfriend calling?" As soon as the phone was hung up, Chen Lele, who was on the upper bunk, lay down and stared at Lily. Her long straight hair fell down, and her expression looked a little strange. She stared at the silver ring on Lily's finger. "Look. Your boyfriend doesn't seem like someone with no money, why would he give you such a worthless thing?" Chen Lele is a jewelry merchant in her own family. She can tell at a glance what material the ring on Lily's hand is made of. Now she naturally recognizes that it is not platinum or made by a master. She has a good taste. Lily, the ring on her hand was originally bought in a silver jewelry store in high school, and it was not very exquisite. When Chen Lele saw this thing, a complicated feeling came to her heart. In her 2 lives, she has received countless gifts, from her parents, from her childhood sweetheart's boyfriend, from her suitors when she grew older, and from friends who called her sisters. In addition to the things given by her parents, most of the people who can associate with Chen Lele are of good status, and the gifts they give are very exquisite. She may not even open many expensive things after receiving them. Now she sees Behi receiving them. When Chen Lele received the silver ring, she vaguely felt that Lily's boyfriend had given her something worthless, and he probably didn't take her to heart. She was inexplicably happy, but a woman's sixth sense made her think that this might not be the case. Son. In her previous life, her fiancé, who claimed to like her and whom she liked very much, gave her many brand-name diamonds and many master-class handmade jewelry. He kept saying that he loved her, but he turned around and was with that bitch. Together, after being reborn in this life, Chen Lele no longer liked that man. The experience in her previous life made her lose her appetite for ordinary men. She thought about her fiancé's gentle and outstanding temperament, and how patient he was in dealing with people. Being meticulous can easily make a woman fall in love with him. Chen Lele somehow remembered Fen Ning he saw this afternoon. Once he determined the target, he never looked around and rushed towards Lily. His behavior, it was not appropriate. He even called her daughter-in-law while holding Lily. He did not have an elegant posture or gentle and decent etiquette. But in comparison at this time, Chen Lele felt that Fen Ning was so many times better than that hypocrite. Thinking back to the cookie-cutter jewelry and diamonds she received, she came from a family of jewelry merchants and had as many as she wanted, but her boyfriend would only let his servants help her choose a few things every time. Chen Lele saw that in her eyes. The extremely rough silver ring closed his eyes involuntarily and took a deep breath. Lily, don't you know? I also sell jewelry and diamonds at home. Why don't you ask your boyfriend to buy it at my home next time? As long as you like it, I will give you a discount. To be continued. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 713. At this moment, Chen Lele always felt that the ring worn by Lily was a bit annoying, but she couldn't tell what was wrong. At this moment, she suppressed the complicated thoughts in her heart and said something to Lily. Lily glanced at her. Chen Lele, she is not really a girl of 16 or 17 years old. She is not calm in her heart at the moment, but she still has a decent and friendly smile on her face. When she sees Lily looking up at her, she even purses her lips and smiles at Lily. Come. Lily smiled and said nothing. She just put her phone on the small table beside the bed, packed her things and went to the bathroom. That night, the three people in the dormitory except Lily couldn't sleep. Chen Lele was thinking about Fen Ning, whom she had seen tonight, and felt inexplicably uncomfortable in her heart. In her previous life, she met unkind people. First, her childhood sweetheart boyfriend fell in love with that person. Bitch, all the men she met later treated her like a plaything, either just wanted her body, or they just wanted to vent. She was very envious of Lily for having such a boyfriend. He was so direct that she even felt a little jealous. Became jealous. Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian thought of the upper-class society mentioned by Chen Lele, and the girls began to have some fantasies in their hearts. Since Fen Ning returned to the military academy, there has been no news for half a year. Beihi's phone still occasionally forgets to charge, but sometimes she remembers to charge it. Chen Lele seems to be more concerned about whether she should charge her phone. Lily was still caring and reminded her from time to time that a group of boring boys in the school ranked the so-called class beauties after the semester started. Chen Lele was naturally on the list, but unexpectedly, Lily didn't usually follow her. People who chat with classmates in the same class are also sought after because of their good foundation. But there is definitely no way to compare with Chen Lele, because Chen Lele comes from a wealthy background and is such a good person. So many boys just like her. They didn't dare to take any action. Some people in the department even rumored that Chen Lele already had a boyfriend. This made most people afraid to take action. In addition, Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian in the dormitory were because of their looks. Petite and cute. He is also very popular and has many suitors. Although Lily also attracted the attention of some senior boys, because of her cold personality, Someone had seen Fen Ning when he came to pick her up that day, so there were some overtures to her, but Lily ignored them and was naturally passed over. However, Yu Xiaotian and Yang Li in the same dormitory are the most popular. Half a year later, the two girls were much more fashionable and beautiful than when they first entered school. Yang Li finally fell in love with a junior, and the two were ready to move out of the dormitory and live together off campus. According to the unwritten rules in other dormitories, before moving out of the dormitory, Yang Li's boyfriend planned to invite the three girls in the dormitory to go out for dinner. Lily was also invited, and the dinner was scheduled for Friday night. The course is very relaxing. After dinner on Friday night, everyone could go out to sing. Lily was originally not interested in such a party. She was not really a girl of 17 or 18 years old and didn't really like to join in such fun, but Yang Li kindly invited her to go. Ever since she knew that Lily had a boyfriend like Fen Ning, the previous situation of ostracizing her in the dormitory had never happened again. On the surface, the girls were much closer than before. They reached out to avoid hitting the smiling person. Yang Li said yes. Please have a meal. Another act of flattery and obedience. He also smiled and acted coquettishly at Lily, so in the end it was impossible for Lily not to go. Before going out, Lily was going to wear her usual outfit, but Yang Li frowned. Ziahe, why are you dressed so plainly? Ask Lele to borrow a down jacket. You don't even have a skirt, she doesn't even put on makeup or mess with her hair. She is quite beautiful, so it would be a pity not to dress up. Nowadays, college is not as strict as it was in high school. Both Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian have big waves, and their originally dark long hair has been dyed into maroon or yellow. They look much more fashionable and beautiful than before. But Lily was dressed in the most ordinary and plain clothes. Apart from those few sets of clothes, she had never bought any new clothes in the dormitory in half a year. The weather is getting cooler now. Several girls in the dormitory are wearing leggings and short skirts, with coats or light down jackets on their upper bodies. They look trendy and fashionable when paired with them. However, Lily is wearing an old cotton jacket. She wears jeans and doesn't wear boots like others. She only wears a pair of black leather shoes. If it weren't for her good foundation and good figure and temperament, many people might not even notice her just because of her appearance. What are you dressing up for? Today's protagonist is you, not me. Lily pursed her lips and smiled. Her long hair was hanging loose. It's not that she is stinky, it's just because this body has not practiced martial arts, so it is afraid of the cold in winter. Forget it, keep your hair warm. At this moment, Lily's words made Yang Li very happy. You must know that people like Lily never want to support anyone, nor can they say nice words to please others, so it is rare to hear words from her mouth. Hearing such a sentence, Yang Li was naturally happy, and after thinking about it, she stopped trying to persuade her. After everyone had tidied up, Yang Li asked Chen Lele for some perfume to spray on her body, and then they set off together. Yang Li's boyfriend made an appointment to wait at the school gate. The place to eat was at a place called Daiwan Hotel outside the school. It was not very high-end, but for the students, it was high-end enough. Yang Li's boyfriend hadn't come out when they went out. Yang Li kept calling him. I don't know what was said over there. Yang Li's face became a little ugly. Lily leaned against the pillar and waited quietly, occasionally kicking her feet. She stomped her hands when she was stiff. Chen Lele put her hands in her pockets and looked at her from time to time. After a while, the mobile phone in her pocket rang. Chen Lele took out the phone and took a look, and her expression changed. As soon as she hung up the phone, it rang again about 2 minutes later. She reached out and cut it off. About half an hour later, before Yang Li's boyfriend arrived, she heard a gentle man's voice shouting, Lele. Several people looked for the sound and saw a BMW parked across the street not far away. A young man in his 20s wearing a camel-colored hooded coat was standing across the street and waving at Chen Lele. "Come on." Chen Lele's expression suddenly turned cold, but soon she showed a somewhat forced smile. The young man wanted to wait for the traffic light and came over here. It happened that Yang Li's boyfriend also led a few people. "Walk this way." "Lily. I'm sorry for being late." Several buddies in the dormitory knew that I was going out to live, so they all shouted to see me off. Yang Li's boyfriend was of medium build and not outstanding in appearance. But he was from the imperial capital. He had several houses at home and was in good condition. He called a few buddies over to see him off. But anyone with a discerning eye knew that he was trying to secure matchmaking for his buddies in the dormitory. As soon as those junior boys arrived, their eyes fell on Lily and the others. Yu Xiaotian smiled and did not feel disgusted, while Chen Lele had a look on his face. It looked a little unsightly, but I could barely bear it. She comes from a good background, and she will marry someone in the future, and it will never be with these people. Yang Li's boyfriend used this opportunity to introduce her to his brothers. A person like Chen Lele couldn't tell. She took a deep breath and frowned slightly. "I'm sorry, my friend is here. Maybe he won't be able to eat today." As soon as she said this, Yang Li glared at her boyfriend and looked at the boys in her boyfriend's dormitory with some embarrassment. His expression looked a little ugly. Lily didn't want to go when she saw this fight. Just when she was about to find an excuse to escape, a car on the opposite side suddenly braked. The screeching sound of the car's tires scraping on the ground made Lily frown. She was originally facing this way. The young man who had just called Chen Lele was stopped by the car that suddenly rushed out, and he stopped subconsciously. The car almost hit someone, and then stopped narrowly. Seeing such a scene, the young man met Chen Lele. "Everyone walked this way." The young man who called Chen Lele's name was so frightened that his face turned pale. Now he was angrily knocking on the other person's car window and shouting, "How do you drive? Can you drive as wildly as you around the school? Is there a problem?" No one could be seen clearly through the filmed car window, but there was no obstruction to looking outside. After Chen Lele's friend knocked on the car door, the car door was suddenly opened from the inside, and a slender and strong leg wearing military boots got out of the car first. Immediately afterwards, the upper body of the man also came out of the car. Fenning, who had a cool expression, looked around condescendingly. When he saw Lily standing behind Chen Lele, his eyes couldn't help but light up. "Daughter-in-law. Why are you back?" Lily was a little surprised this time. She didn't expect that Fenning would suddenly return to the imperial capital. The school would be on vacation in a few days. She had already found a part-time job in advance this year. Told Zoe's mother not to go back. "I originally thought that the military school where Fenning was located had strict management, but I didn't expect that he would appear at the school gate at this moment." After Fenning saw the person, he strode towards Lily. There was no presence of Chen Lele and others in his eyes. Once he saw Lily, he only had her in his heart. When he saw Lily, he didn't even have any extra thoughts. Not a second was wasted, and he moved neatly towards the route that could get him closest to Lily without any intention of bypassing a few people. Chen Lele was stunned when he saw Fenning. When he saw him walking towards her, he knew that he was not looking at herself. Chen Lele stood there without moving until Fenning bumped into her, knocking her staggering, and then stood in front of Lily. "Why are you like this?" The young man who had just been nearly hit by Fenning's car had lost his elegant demeanor. When he saw that Chen Lele was knocked crooked and almost fell to the ground, but Fenning didn't even apologize, the man suddenly his face turned ugly, and he accused Fenning a few words. However, Fenning's personality was that he was not afraid of anything, and living in the military school for more than a year had not worn away his arrogance. He turned a deaf ear to the young man's angry shouts and directly hugged Lily into his arms, breathing a long sigh of relief. I miss you so much, brother Ning. I finally got to hold my wife, he hugged Lily tightly. Compared with more than a year ago, when he held Lily, his body would still stiffen and tremble. Fen Ning had become much calmer when he hugged Lily. He seemed to have grown taller again. Lily had just reached his shoulders when she stood on tiptoes. He put his arms around Lily's waist and sniffed her like a puppy until Lily stretched out her hand and patted his face, and he chuckled, "Pat it again to see if I'm dreaming." When Lily heard this, she slapped the other side of his face without hesitation. Fen Ning laughed loudly, picked up Lily and kissed her on the lips with a loud chirp, "Dream, I just want you to stay close to me, even if you hit me, I'll be happy." Now his face no longer had the cool look before, but instead looked stupid again. Lily glared at him. "Why are you back suddenly? You didn't send me a message before you came back." Her phone had just been charged 2 days ago and was still on. Fen Ning carefully took her hand into his palm and looked at her middle finger. Wearing a silver ring. The quality of the ring was not very good, and it had slightly changed color now, but her fingers were as slender as onion tubes. "It looks good even with a slightly discolored ring." Fen Ning giggled and answered after a long while. "I want to give you a surprise, are you happy?" he grinned, showing his white teeth. Lily thought for a while and shook her head honestly. The surprise was enough. She didn't seem to be overjoyed. Just as she was about to speak, Fen Ning reached out and touched her lips, pulling her towards the car. When Yang Li and others saw this scene, they hurriedly stepped forward to stop him. "Brother-in-law, don't leave. It's rare to see him face to face. Let's have a meal together." Several girls have long been curious about Fen Ning. She didn't expect to see Fen Ning now. Yang Li even noticed with sharp eyes that Fen Ning had another car. The license plate number was different from the previous off-road vehicle, but she could still tell the difference. She was moving out of the campus today. On the days when they were living together, they had agreed to treat each other, but now Chen Lele said that they couldn't go because their friends were coming. If Lily had gone, only Yu Xiaotian would be left to eat, and she was about to stop him again. Fen Ning ignored her at all. First, he pulled Lily around and opened the passenger door. He half carried and half dragged Lily onto the chair. As soon as he closed the car door, he walked around the car and was about to sit over here. Yang Li originally wanted to stop him, but he went on a rampage. Yang Li was not more gentlemanly at all because she was a girl. Thinking of the scene where Chen Lele was hit and almost fell to the ground, Yang Li had no choice but to get out of the way. Before Fen Ning got in the car, Lily lay down on the driver's seat, patted Fen Ning's body as he was about to get in the car, lay on his shoulder and shouted to Yang Li. "Yang Li, you can eat today. I won't go. My boyfriend is back." Fen Ning's character would definitely not allow her to go out to dinner with others today. Rather than wait for Fen Ning to offend everyone so arrogantly, it would be better for her to speak up for herself. In the past, Lily rarely approached Fen Ning like this. She lay on Fen Ning's shoulder. Her body was as soft as a snake. He seemed to be able to break her waist with one hand. The girl's body was so petite that he seemed if she exerts even a little force, she will be injured. Fen Ning felt an unsatisfactory feeling of hot air spreading from his neck and ears. The feeling of accelerating heartbeat came again. He stiffened for a moment and kept opening the door without daring to move. He was afraid that he would be disturbed if he moved. When Lily reached her, she retracted, and he wanted to giggle a little. Lily's long, smooth black hair fell behind his neck, and the hair tickled him, as if the itch went straight from his body into his heart. He could see the girl's face as soon as he turned his head. The sound of Lily's breath blowing in his ears when she spoke made him feel a fire inexplicably. He always wanted to do something, but didn't dare to do anything. His neck seemed to be stiff. Fen Ning wanted to turn his head. He could touch Lily's lips with just a slight turn of his head, but his usually flexible body felt very awkward at this moment. Difficulty. When he heard Lily say that he was her boyfriend, Fen Ning couldn't help but giggle. He had been calling wife for more than a year. Lily had never said that he was her boyfriend. Now when he heard her after clearing his name, Fen Ning wished he could record it with something. Thinking of this, he was so excited that he came back to his senses. First, he turned his head and quickly kissed Lily on the mouth and stole the fragrance quickly. He didn't give Lily any time to lose consciousness. He hugged Lily into his arms and held her tightly. He fished out his wallet from the car with one hand, took out a wad of money from it and handed it over without looking at it. "My treat." After saying this, Fen Ning got into the car directly. Yang Li took the money, her expression was still a little dull, and she saw the car door closing with a bang. "Daughter-in-law, you miss me so much. Your brother Ning is always thinking about you in his dreams. He resists not calling you because he wants to give you a surprise. Little girl, he is planning to go out for dinner with someone. You are a shameless man out there. There are so many people who are thinking about you, so they don't have to be too petty." He touched Lily's forehead affectionately with his forehead, and rubbed it twice. Even though Fen Ning was not used to keeping his head down for a long time, but he still couldn't bear to raise his head. He first pulled out the seat belt for Lily, and then began to ramble. His hand holding the seat belt was trembling slightly. His face was suspiciously red. If Lily hadn't been sitting close to him, it would have been hard to tell from his tanned face that he was shy. He finally buckled his seat belt. But the person did not leave, but instead stared straight at Lily, with a look that was a little shy and dangerous. For more than a year, Fen Ning has changed significantly compared to before. Lily almost dared not breathe. He was very close, his arms were now across her chest. She could touch him as her chest rose and fell when she breathed. Fen Ning was so close to her. Her expression was as dangerous as that of a wolf, as if he would pounce on her at any time if she made the slightest move. "It's not that you miss me. Can you still bear not to call me?" Lily asked. Fen Ning, who had been staring dangerously at her lips just now, heard this, and his face that had just faded became hot again. He laughed hee twice, took out a mobile phone from the car, took Lily's hand and swiped it twice to unlock the phone. The mobile phone screen was a picture that Lily sent Fen Ning to take a look at her hand with the ring on it. Lily didn't expect that he would use it to make the base picture of the mobile phone. After taking a look at him, Fen Ning immediately felt proud. "They are so envious of me. Just by looking at these hands, they know that my wife is pretty. I was smart and didn't let anyone see your photo." He was actually very jealous that Lily's photo was seen. Fen Ning would feel uncomfortable even if someone praised him or uttered a few words, so he only used Lily's hand as a base map. "When I miss her, I slide open my phone from time to time to look at her to satisfy my craving. Sometimes, even if someone sees him, he is not afraid of anything." Although Fen Ning feels unwilling to do so, he thinks about being seen with one of his wife's hands. It's better than having someone see your face. When Lily heard this, she looked up and squinted at him several times. "You don't have a photo of me, do you?" Her words made Fen Ning look a little ugly. He looked a little embarrassed, but refused to admit defeat. "Even if I have it, I can't show it to them." "Then you can accompany me to take some photos later, and we want a group photo." The last time he came back, he just stared at Lily. He always felt that the two of them didn't even spend enough time together. When he saw Lily, he couldn't think of anything else, not the photo at all. Later, he sometimes thought about it and felt regretful. But Ning was embarrassed to say it. At this moment, Fen Ning was bitten by Lily. Fen Ning became a little angry. He grabbed Lily's hand and stuffed it into his mouth. He wanted to bite but couldn't bear it. In the end, he had to lick it twice. It was so itchy that Lily retracted her hand. "He is not allowed to touch it." Listen, Fen Ning recalled the conversation between the two half a year ago like a treasure. He clicked on it, and Lily's voice rang out, "Drive carefully." He played it again several times, with a happy smile like a child on his face. He didn't know what he had in mind with such a high-pitched voice, but he played it twice more with great care, and finally burst out laughing. Lily couldn't bear it anymore and slapped him on the face again. Only then did he come back to his senses. He suddenly lowered his head and rubbed Lily's cheek. "When I miss you, I turn it out and listen to it. When I miss you, I turn it out and listen. But I miss you, Ning brother." Lily suddenly became a little startled. Fen Ning carefully listened to the recording again, fearing that the call would be deleted. He clicked the exit button, locked the phone, and subconsciously kissed the screen of the phone. Then suddenly seemed to remember something. "Hey, I forgot that the real person is by my side." After he finished speaking, he pursed his lips and kissed Lily twice hard on the cheek. This move made Lily's heart move slightly. Fen Ning's actions, like kissing his cell phone, clearly showed that he really missed him very much. He didn't expect that when he asked him to say something to drive carefully, it would become a problem in the past 6 months. For a long time, he had the habit of listening to sounds when he was thinking about himself. He swiped his finger on the screen of his mobile phone twice, then put the mobile phone back into the car and smiled at Lily, who smiled back at him. He was in a daze again. It wasn't until Lily turned his face away that Fen Ning put on his seat belt with a silly smile and started the car. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 714. How long will it take for you to come back this time? When Fen Ning was about to return to Beijing, he sent her a message saying that he had a day off. This time, there was no news at all when he came back. People suddenly appeared. Although Lily didn't receive the message last time, Fen Ning sent her back to school. Now that she knew it, she asked, and Fen Ning turned to smile at her. "I have a 10-day holiday this time. I drove back all night last night. I can stay with you for 10 days. Wife, please skip school." He plans to compress the original several years of courses into a short period of time. Even if the Feng family is powerful and can help him a lot, it still requires him to put in far more effort and time than others. In the past, the school, when people have weekends and Saturdays off, or when they engage in sports and leisure activities, Fen Ning usually spends time sparring with others for exercise. When people take time off to go out to play, he usually uses his spare time to study. Fen Ning has never felt like this in his life. He tried hard, and even in order to save time, he usually didn't even go home. Last year during the Chinese New Year, his parents missed their son, but he couldn't resist not coming back. It wasn't until half a year ago that he really missed Lily, and his parents also wanted to see him. Fen Ning just took a day off and rushed back. This time he didn't want to take leave, but he overheard that the girlfriend of a student in the same dormitory was having other boyfriends and broke up with him. Fen Ning, then there is a sense of crisis. Thinking that after entering the military academy, he had less time to contact Lily, let alone see each other. Since Lily separated in the second semester of her sophomore year of high school last year, the two of them had only seen each other once in total. Fen Ning's awareness of crisis rose. Lily was very good in his heart, so he was naturally afraid of her because he was not with her all year round. She ran away with someone else, so after much deliberation, she gritted her teeth and took 10 days off this year. She decided that at the worst possible outcome, she would just sleep a little less every day after returning to school to make up for the time. Anyway, young people just sleep too much to no avail. When Lily heard that he had 10 days of rest, she knew in her heart that her part-time job would definitely go to waste. The school would be on vacation in a few days, and she had hardly skipped any classes this semester. Lily usually spends her time reading when others are playing. In addition, she has studied in college more than once or twice. With the increase in intelligence, it is not difficult to review these textbooks. She has already completed her studies and goes to "It doesn't matter if I don't go to school. Although I haven't found a part-time job in this half year." Lily worked as a tutor on Saturdays and weekends. In addition to her own living expenses, she also saved several thousand yuan. After the Spring Festival, she will work part-time for the first half of next year. The tuition will be enough. As long as her grades are good enough, she can apply to the school for a partial tuition fee exemption. So after thinking about it, Lily nodded. Fen Ning was obviously prepared. After taking Lily to eat dinner, he did not send Lily back to the dormitory. Instead, he took her to live outside. He should have found someone to prepare a house in the imperial capital long before returning to the capital. Even before returning to the dormitory, Lily thought that an impulsive young man like Fen Ning would be unable to bear it, but even in the end Fen Ning just hugged her across the quilt. Fen Ning in the plot was too young to he knows how to exercise restraint and patience, but now he is a little more responsible than the young and frivolous person in the plot. When Lily returned to her own body and took a shower, she fell asleep with Fen Ning Huan in her arms and woke up the next day. Fen Ning was lying next to her, holding one arm and staring down at her. When Lily opened her eyes, he didn't blink. He was still holding her ring-wearing hand, which was already covered in sweat. There was a hint of longing in his expression. There was a silly smile on the corner of his mouth. I didn't know what he thought of, but he couldn't help laughing. What's so funny? Lily struggled for a moment, and the hand he held in his palm was tightly held by his warm palm. She was sweating now, which made Lily feel uncomfortable and wanted to pull it back. He did not let go, but held it backwards. He tightened even more and subconsciously covered his chest. When he heard Lily speaking, he was still smiling stupidly, but suddenly he woke up, startled and choked on his own saliva, and couldn't help coughing. "Daughter-in-law, wake up!" Fen Ning's face showed a bit of shyness. This was not the first time that the two of them slept together in the same bed, but it was the second time that the two of them had been dating in name for so long. Except for not getting to the last step. Fen Ning did almost nothing. He looked at Lily's face, and his ears and neck began to feel hot, and smoke was about to come out of his head. He didn't dare to look at Lily's face, but he couldn't control himself. He glanced at her from time to time. When he found Lily staring at him, he hurriedly looked away. This look made Lily want to laugh. "Don't laugh." When he saw Lily smiling, he became a little angry and wanted to cover her eyes, but he couldn't bear to see his existence in her eyes. He endured the embarrassment and watched Lily purse her lips, and then caught her. He kissed her lips gently with his hand, with a very persistent and serious expression. When the gentle raindrop kiss fell on her middle finger wearing the ring, he stopped. "When I come back next time, let's go pick out a ring and put it on, change this and store it, then wear it on this finger." He gently bit Lily's ring finger. Lily instinctively wanted to retract her hand as if she was startled, so he quickly grabbed it again and held her back. He placed a hand on the side of her head, half propped up his body, and stared at Lily condescendingly. "When you reach the age, we will get the certificate first, okay?" He lowered his voice, as if coaxing, and his eyes were slightly blurred again, which was different from the way Lily looked at him when she woke up. The expression was exactly the same. It was obvious that he was thinking about this just now. Lily has just turned 18, and there are still 2 years before she can get married. Fen Ning is older than her, but he is still a teenager after all. He is so young, but he is ready to settle down early. That's it for Lily. She is not really 10 years old. An innocent and simple girl of 8 or 9 years old. Although the tasks in this life have now exceeded her expectations, she is not panicked. But Fen Ning is different. He is still so young. He is not the calm and down-to-earth person in the plot. For a young man in his late 30s who knows what he wants, when it comes to getting married, it may be too early. She fell silent and didn't speak. One hand was held by Fenning. Lily covered her eyes with the other hand. Fenning became a little anxious without making a sound. The arm that was originally supporting her body bent. It was Lily's upper body that pressed against Lily, and even her legs tightly restrained, her legs wrapped under the quilt. Daughter-in-law, look at me, I can support you, I can protect you, I. He was trembling with excitement. When he started to speak, his words became a little sluggish. Lily saw his nervous cheeks and he licked his lips. His face had not completely faded away, but mature edges and corners were already appearing. Fenning watched Lily staring at him. Her clear eyes could see how nervous she was. He instinctively stretched out a hand to cover her eyes, not daring to cover her eyes too tightly. He knew the strength well, so he only dared to lightly cover her eyelids, but he was afraid that it would be uncomfortable to press her too close, so he cupped his palms and felt the smooth and tender touch under his hands, and the eyelashes were like two small handfuls. It swept across his palm like a fan, as if something had penetrated the flesh and blood from his palm and melted into the bone marrow, and could no longer be separated. At the end of the year before last, from the moment she agreed to be his girlfriend, Fenning had already felt this way. His heart was full when he thought of her, and something felt wrong when he touched her body. That feeling couldn't be said. What was it? He could only calm down after seeing her all the time. At that time, Fenning didn't understand what the situation meant, but after they separated, when he thought about her so much, he still felt that touching and holding her was not enough. When he wants more, he knows he's done. He has been very courageous since he was a child. He is not afraid of anything. When the children who are older than him in the military compound want to dominate, he is never afraid. He can knock down those who are much stronger than him. As a child, he can do whatever he wants. What are you doing? He is arrogant and domineering, but he can defeat him when he encounters difficulties. Meeting such a person who cannot be grasped is like meeting his own nemesis. Fenning is really at a loss and gets nervous when talking to her. When she stares at her, she can't help but want to giggle, and when she gets close to her, she is afraid and expectant. If she wants to catch her, her previous methods will not work, and she will be reluctant to force her to let him go. If he follows his wishes, she may feel uncomfortable. He had 1,000 ways to get her, but when he thought that she might cry, he didn't dare to do anything. When being stared at by Lily, Fenning couldn't even say a decent word. The leader of the military academy once praised him as a good young man. Fenning secretly spurned himself a few words, covered Lily's eyes, and then said with a slightly trembling voice, "Daughter-in-law, I like you very much. Your brother Ning can't say nice things, but I mean it sincerely. He will not say touching love words like the protagonist in the TV series, nor will he do the things that a mature and promising man does." There was no such thing as a strong guarantee, but his intentions at the moment were no worse than others, and even his stammering words made Lily feel his sincerity even more. "If you don't want to." He wanted to say that if Lily didn't want to, he couldn't bear to force her, but when he said it, his voice became a little soft, and he couldn't say the next few words at all. The thought that Lily might belong to someone else made him feel uncomfortable. Fenning waited. Lily's answer made her heart almost beat out. The hand covering Lily's eyelids seemed to have small blood vessels beating desperately. His palm and the hand pressing her wrist were shaking slightly. His body was very tense. Holding his breath and waiting for Lily's answer. To be continued. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 715. Lily reached out to take Fenning's hand covering her eyes, and he let it go obediently. Apparently Fenning also noticed that his words of proposal were not very decent and touching. He didn't get Lily's consent, and his lips turned a little white. The look of disappointment on his face was suppressed, unlike the obvious panic when Lily told Aunt Wang that she wanted to break up in front of Aunt Wang more than a year ago, but his silence was actually better than what he showed at that time. The panic and fear outside made people feel even more distressed. Fenning. Lily kicked the quilt. Before Lily could continue, he suddenly took the quilt with him and hugged Lily into his arms. I don't care, you are my wife anyway, who is it? If you dare to have an idea of yours, I can't kill him. You can't run anywhere, you can't say you don't want to, otherwise I'll do it to you first, before the wedding day. Just now, he was pretending to be generous and wanted to give himself a chance to think about rejection, but now his true nature was revealed. Although Lily had known that his personality would not be so easy to talk to, she could see that he was worried and afraid of being rejected just a moment ago. Turned around and changed his face, still looking domineering and arrogant. His eyes were a little red and his expression was serious. It was obvious that he was not joking. Lily's ears were a little hot and she couldn't help but glare at him again. But even though her expression was calm at this moment, the girl's slightly red cheeks looked more beautiful than after using any cosmetics. Fenning was already struggling, but when he saw Lily not speaking and just staring at him, she felt in her heart when he panicked, his head lowered subconsciously. I didn't say I didn't want to. His legs were pressed against Lily's legs through the quilt. Lily kicked him hard twice, but he didn't move at all. Seeing his lips falling, Lily quickly put her hand to cover her mouth, turned her face to speak, and Fenning's lips touched her palm. He couldn't help but kiss her twice. When he heard Lily say that he was not unwilling, Fenning's eyes suddenly lit up, and he stuck out his tongue to lick Lily's palm. The expression is a little excited. Daughter-in-law, are you really willing? Are you willing? Just wait. He paused, then jumped up like a cheetah and jumped under the bed. The strong muscles of his upper body exposed outside the vest showed beautiful and smooth movements. As soon as the lines came, he stepped on the carpet with his bare feet and ran out quickly. After a while, he came back again and jumped on the bed. The bed was shaken by his movements. Lily was wrapped in the quilt and her body bounced involuntarily. Just when she was about to stand up to see what he was going to do, Fenning hugged her into his arms and held the corner of the quilt for her. Tucked it in, letting Lily lie on his chest, and turned on the phone with concentration. He bit his lower lip and pressed it carefully for a while, then lifted Lily up a little. What you said just now is really nice. Say it 2 more times and let me go back and listen to it to satisfy my craving. The beaming smile on his face was in sharp contrast to the life or death look before. Daughter-in-law, Lily, marry Fenning after graduation. This time he behaved a little better and didn't ask Lily if she was willing. Instead, he finished speaking loudly into the microphone first. Then he handed the phone to Lily. He raised his eyebrows at her and signaled her to continue. Lily just said that she never said she didn't want to, and now she was forced to agree. Her scalp was numb and she did not agree immediately. Fenning immediately became anxious and was about to pause the recording button when Lily thought for a moment and said, "Okay." Fenning listened to what she said and saved the recording with her fingers. She was still afraid that something would go wrong, so she turned the recorder over and listened again. She was sure that Lily had promised and said good, so she breathed a sigh of relief and she put the phone aside like a baby, then hugged Lily into her arms and giggled. "Look at how stupid you are, I just said I didn't want to marry you." Seeing how serious he was, Lily couldn't help but push him. After hearing this, Fenning said sternly, "Now that you have said that you want to marry me, you are already married. I have obtained the evidence, but you cannot deny it. You are my wife, and you cannot run away." "That's not necessarily the case." Lily smiled. Fenning was impulsive when he was young. Fenning may not think like this as an adult. Time is the easiest thing to change people. What does Fenning want? He may not even know it clearly, but at the moment Fenning doesn't annoy her, and the relationship continues. If he suddenly changes one day in the future, Lily will not force it? She sat up and Fen Ning handed her the clothes and watched her turn around and hide in the quilt to change her clothes, making a sound of zixasuoshuo. The thick quilt was wrapped around her body, only her head was exposed. He stretched out his hands to support the bed. He didn't turn his head, just stared at her with admiration. After Lily said she was willing to marry him, regardless of whether the two of them lacked the formality or not, in Fen Ning's heart Lily was already his wife. It wasn't just what he said before, she was his woman, and he didn't need to be like before. Just as he was watching her change her clothes, he shyly hid away. When he heard Lily saying something that might not be followed in a disapproving tone, Fen Ning clenched his fists slightly, and finally slowly released them. It will be a long time in the future, and you will see that your brother Ning is not the kind of person you think. He would not say everlasting words to coax her, but in Fen Ning's heart, Lily had no confidence in him, just because in the past, he was just like what his parents said, too unreliable. It was natural that she didn't believe it. But the advantage of him was that he was young. He knew how to change. He could change for the better. He didn't make promises easily. He beat him to tears when he was a child. When the brothers who worshipped him as the eldest brother said that they would follow him for the rest of their lives, Fen Ning never promised. At that time, he did not think that promises were worth a lot of money as he does now. When he was young and ignorant, it was just because he was afraid of those people. Silly Q's poor performance in the future will only cause him trouble, but it is different for Lily. He is willing to commit, but he is not willing to just say nice words to coax her. He wants to take it one step at a time and really let Lily see what he can do for her. Wherever she is, she will never regret becoming his woman for the rest of her life. What she does is much more true than speaking nice words. Fen Ning stayed with Lily for 10 days in a row. The two of them went shopping occasionally. Sometimes Lily saw something and didn't buy it. However, the part-time job she had found during the winter vacation this year couldn't be continued because of Fen Ning's sudden return, so Lily is planning to go back to Zoe's family during the spring festival this year. Sometimes when she is shopping, she thinks of Zoe's mother and her younger siblings. So they bought all the things suitable for them. Fen Ning didn't want her to pay, and only said that she should be filial to her mother-in-law. Occasionally when they don't want to go out to eat, the two of them will go to the supermarket and buy some food to cook at home. Fen Ning wanted to help her at first, but he was not born with this skill. Apart from being good at chopping vegetables, he couldn't help her with cooking. While Lily was cooking, he leaned against the kitchen and watched her. This kind of life like an ordinary couple made Fen Ning want to leave less and less. As his vacation was coming, others became more and more irritable and restless. Sometimes when Lily was sleeping at night, she could feel him waking up in the middle of the night and touching her face, holding her hand before falling back to sleep. The school had already closed for vacation. Fen Ning accompanied Lily back to school to pack her things. Yang Li had already moved out of the dormitory. Yu Xiaotian also returned to his hometown. Unexpectedly, Chen Lele was still in the dormitory when Lily and Fen Ning returned. She was originally from the capital, but now that school is on holiday, she didn't even go back home. The entire dormitory building deserted, except for some who want to stay in Kyoto to work. Except for a few students who had not completed their studies, most of them had already gone home. When Lily saw Chen Lele, who was wearing headphones and seemed to be memorizing English words, she raised her eyebrows in surprise. "Why haven't you gone back yet?" When Chen Lele heard the dormitory door being opened, she pulled off the headphones from her ears. She first glanced at Fen Ning. Fen Ning's eyes did not fall on her. Instead, he walked directly towards Lily's bed. He sat down, then picked up the quilt, hugged him in his arms and took a deep breath. The force of his sitting down caused the bed to shake. Chen Lele, who lived in the upper bunk, shook his body and clasped his hands slightly. "Lily, aren't you leaving too?" I'm going back in 2 days to pack my things. Lily ignored the man who was already half lying on her bed. Fenning, who pulled her quilt to cover her face, washed her hands first. Just as he was about to put away his things in a woven bag, Fenning suddenly sat up. You sit down, I'll do it. He reached out and touched a handful of Lily's hands that had been dried but seemed a little cold because of the cold water. He held them and put them into his chest to warm them up, and motioned for her to put them in his pocket. And then quickly folded up all the quilts and other items. After the holiday, there was no one in the dormitory. It was impossible to keep these quilts and other things. They had to be taken away. Lily didn't have many things. Fenning stuffed some basins, clothes hangers, and other items in a few times, easily. He lifted it to his hand, pulled Lily, and was about to leave. Chen Lele, who was sitting on the upper bunk and had been speechless, saw that the two of them were leaving, so he couldn't help but say hello. Lily, why don't we have dinner together? Chen Lele is now almost 18 years old after the new year, and her father is about to bring in the illegitimate daughter. After her rebirth in this life, under her conscious guidance next, the man who had betrayed her had fallen deeply in love with her. Chen Lele had even made a lot of preparations. She felt that even if that bitch was brought in by Father Chen in this life, she would have been prepared and would not be easily betrayed again. She calculated that she had become better than herself in her previous life. The young master who liked her was infinitely better than the man who betrayed her in her previous life. But Chen Lele couldn't explain it clearly in her heart. I always think of Fenning, when he called Lily daughter-in-law, the way he rushed towards her when he saw Lily, and the women around him didn't pay attention to him. He is far more dazzling than Lily in the eyes of anyone, but if he appears, he can always see Lily at the first moment. This kind of scene makes Chen Lele a little jealous. She envies Lily very much. She had all kinds of things in her previous life. She has met many such men, and few can touch Chen Lele's guard. The Chinese New Year is about to come, and there are many men who want to date her after the holidays. Everyone in the dormitory is gone, leaving her alone, but Chen Lele didn't know why she was still in the dormitory. She waited for several days and saw Fenning coming back with Lily. He should have a good background. Chen Lele thought that she was still sensible, but he treats Lily like a treasure and rushes around for her. When Lily was sitting alone on the bed chatting with her, Fenning silently packed her things. She was open and honest in front of Fenning and did not feel embarrassed because her things were old. Fenning was willing to pamper her like this. Chen Lele suddenly remembered that whether in her previous life or in this life, most of the suitors she met were born with silver spoons in their mouths. Some of them were even richer than the Chen family and could give her decent gifts. But no one wants to be like Fenning. Packing things for my girlfriend and getting busy. Chen Lele suddenly invited Lily to have dinner together. Before Lily could answer, Fenning frowned. It's not convenient now. He refused outright. A pair of thick eyebrows were frowned, and there was an obvious look of displeasure on his face. He rarely squeezed out 10 days of rest, which was originally to cultivate a relationship with his wife. He was afraid that she would run away with someone else, and he didn't think there was enough time for the two of them in this world. What's the point of squeezing out an outsider now? He didn't want to waste the extra time on Chen Lele. He had determined who his future partner would be. He couldn't even finish working on Lily. He made a lot of plans and ideas behind his back, but none of them came to fruition. When all that leisure time is put to use, naturally there is no extra thought to pay attention to other women. Fenning didn't care whether Chen Lele was happy when he heard his rejection. Anyway, if he allowed Lily to agree to Chen Lele's invitation, he would definitely be very unhappy, so after rejecting Lily, he didn't give Lily time to say anything and pulled her away. Daughter-in-law, let's go. Lily only had time to turn around and wave to Chen Lele, and the dormitory door was conveniently closed by Fenning with her foot. Chen Lele sat in the empty dormitory and covered his face with his hands for a while before laughing softly. 2 days later, Fen Ning's vacation was almost over. He originally planned to drive back to school at night, but Lily was planning to go home temporarily because she didn't have to work part-time, so Fen Ning thought about it and decided to drive her back during the day, and visit his mother-in-law and his wife, sister-in-law and future brother-in-law. Fen Ning's school stuff was placed here. The house was bought with the New Year's money he saved when he was a child and borrowed some from his family after he turned 18. Fen Ning thought of Chen Lele in Lily's dormitory. Somehow, his brows furrowed. Don't go back to the dormitory from now on. Live here, not far from the school. Just tell people that you are living with your man. Fen Ning is not stupid. Although a girl like Lily is not as good at dressing up as other girls, she is not bad in appearance. There is no guarantee that someone else will fall in love with a girl that he likes. If someone is as obsessed with her as him, and he was able to stalk Lily in the beginning, there is no guarantee that someone will poach him while he is away. Although Fen Ning believes that Lily is not someone who is easily tempted by men. After all, if she is really so easy to coax, she would not have to think about things like this and spend so much time, but when she thinks about someone trying to take advantage of her daughter-in-law, Fen Ning is worried. He just wanted to hit someone, and he instinctively felt that Chen Lele's character was a bit too smooth. Lily sometimes had a bad temper and seemed cold and indifferent, but in fact sometimes she was quite stubborn. People don't like to lie, and told the truth several times. He was angry, but his wife was good no matter what. Fen Ning loved her temperament and was afraid that she would be taught bad things by Chen Lele. Fen Ning warned Lily several times in a row, which made Lily a little nervous. I became impatient and looked at him several times, my brows furrowed, and then he laughed. I won't be happy if I say a few words to you. Brother Ning won't say anything anymore, but don't play with your roommate in the future. Save your energy when you have time. When your man comes back, you can play with me. Before he finished speaking, Lily slapped him in the face. Fen Ning laughed twice. His face was not hurt by the slap. Instead, he rubbed it twice on Lily's palm that was about to take it back and ate it once. The tender tofu sat upright with satisfaction. Driving out of the city by yourself is much faster than taking the bus. You don't have to take a long detour after leaving the city. The two of them went out of the city all the way. Fen Ning talked a lot. Sometimes Lily didn't want to pay attention to him, so he just thought about Fang Er's teasing. Lily talked. Occasionally he said a few words and Lily replied a few words to him, and he became happy again. It was almost noon when he returned to town, talking and laughing all the way. From the time Lily was admitted to college, Zoe's family has moved to the town to bring glory to the town. Zoe's mother has a stable job here, and a pair of younger siblings have also been arranged by the town to study in the town. When Lily pointed in the direction and drove in, several people gathered around the downstairs of the house rented by Zoe's family. Amid the woman's suppressed sobs, a man was cursing. What's the use of girl Pianza's studying? If she had given the 20,000 yuan to me, she would have made a fortune by starting any business. You use it to study for her, you use it to study for her, the man scolded. The sound of crackling slaps on the flesh could not be heard. When Lily heard this sound, her face changed. Fen Ning, who was looking at her with a smile, gradually became more serious. He stretched out his hand. He held Lily tightly, but the man outside was still cursing. What's wrong with proposing a marriage to her now? Which woman doesn't get married when she's 17 or 18 years old? How can she make ends meet by reading so many books? Ask her to come back immediately and refund her tuition fees to me. Interspersed with the woman's thin explanation, Lily gradually calmed down and remained seated without moving. That's my mother. Go back to Beijing first. Fen Ning had no intention of getting out of the car at this moment. He quickly reversed the car. The people over there did not notice the people in the cab, but only heard the car's roar. He instinctively took a few steps back at the sound. Lily sat in the car with her fists clenched. The male voice just now belonged to Zobehi's father. Unexpectedly, he ran away with a woman more than a year ago. It was difficult for Zoe's family to live a new life. When Lily got up, she thought she could get rid of him easily, but he unexpectedly reappeared. Zoe's father is a troublesome person. You can tell from the few words Lily just heard. Zoe's father doesn't know when he came back. He knows that she is still studying in college and has spent a lot on tuition, so he pretends to be with her again. In the plot, she had the same idea of selling Zobehi to deal with her. Lily's eyes narrowed. She was about to think of a way to deal with Zoe's father once and for all, when a hand reached out and wrapped her clenched fist into the palm of her hand. Inside, "Don't worry, I will solve it." At this moment, Fenning was no longer the same as when he was talking to her with a cheerful smile. His young face showed a bit of coldness. He took out his mobile phone, pressed the speakerphone and made a call. It didn't take long. Someone picked up the phone at the other end, and Fenning asked with his face covered. "Why was the woman you found so unreliable back then, and it took more than a year to get her back?" Monk Jonger was obviously confused by the questions over there. After asking several times, he finally understood what Fenning was referring to. He called out Brother Ning several times, then hurriedly begged for mercy and hung up the phone first to inquire about the situation and make an appointment. 5 minutes later, Fenning's cell phone rang again, and the man wiped his face, a little embarrassed. "I asked Brother Ning, and the woman said she ran out of money and had no choice but to come back. It's just that now you always want to how to do. If he keeps looking for a woman to hang that old man up, she will definitely not do it without long-term financial support." Fenning's eyebrows showed a bit of ruthlessness. He glanced at Lily, thought for a moment and gritted his teeth. "Have someone put him up, take it out, sell it, don't let him come back again." After quickly finishing the instructions, Fenning hung up the phone and saw that Behi had not made a sound and just listened to his call quietly. She felt a little guilty and hurriedly stopped the car on the side of the road and was about to take off her seat belt to hold Lily's hand. "Daughter-in-law, I know that's your father, but This was not when he was young and impulsive. If he had been an immature boy and heard that Zoe's father wanted to sell the lilies for money, depending on his temper, he might have rushed forward to kill him. Zoe's father beat him for a while and ignored him, but now he had to make long-term plans for the two of them. First of all, since he wanted to prepare to graduate from the military academy and enter the army as soon as possible, he could not be punished for beating him now. It delayed his important event. Then he could think of a way to accuse Zoe's father and put him in jail. With the power of the Feng family, it would be easy to deal with Zoe's father, but he didn't want to do that. It's not that he thinks it will be shameful for Lily to have a father in jail in the future, but that Lily will marry him in the future. Although he likes it, he doesn't want people in the Feng family to look down on Lily because of Zoe's father's problems. He himself is reluctant to let go of the wronged person, and does not want her to be wronged by others, so he would rather use more complicated methods. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 716. But now Fenning was afraid that Lily would be angry with him, so although he gritted his teeth and still ordered others, he was ready to apologize and explain to Lily, but as soon as he opened his mouth, Lily reached out and held his face. He had just ordered someone to sell Zoe's father with a decisive tone, but he turned around and felt a little restless. Lily moved his fingers, he squinted his eyes, and couldn't help but curl up the corner of his mouth with a silly expression. "Stand up. Sell it farther away, don't let him come back." Fenning is willing to help her with this favor, and can handle it better than her. Lily is not the real original owner. She has no feelings for Zoe's father. The one who sold him in the first place, the daughter, was exchanged for 5,000 yuan. Zoe's father, who didn't care about his daughter's life or death, deserved to be sold. Zoe's father only got the retribution he deserved. There was no way Lily would blame Fen Ning for this. On the contrary, I will just thank him. Fen Ning was stunned. Seeing that Lily was about to take his hand back, he subconsciously reached out and pressed Lily's palm against his cheek. After a while, he couldn't help but laugh. After Lily finished speaking, she leaned back on the chair without making a sound. At this moment, she was not thinking about getting out of the car to save Zoe's mother. She sounded a little colder, but now she got out of the car and went to save Zoe's mother and father. If they are separated, not only will they not be able to help Zoe's mother, but they will also involve themselves. Only after Zoe's father is taken away again and dealt with, can we solve the problem from the root. But Fen Ning was an outsider, so he could calmly come up with a solution and didn't get angry because Zoe's mother was beaten. He originally wanted to explain to Lily that he didn't stop her because he didn't care about Zoe's mother. But Fen Ning didn't expect that Lily could be so calm without saying anything. He didn't need to explain, because Lily understood the reason why he did this. This feeling made Fen Ning feel happy from the bottom of his heart. This is the woman he likes. Fen Ning originally wanted to see his mother-in-law at noon, but now because Zoe's father came back from the Zhou family, the two of them naturally did not plan to go back, although Fen Ning had already bought something for the Zhou family. But Lily thought about it and decided to find a courier to send things back after she went back. She had no ability to protect herself when she returned to Zhou's house. If she went back home, she would be in trouble, and she might end up like Lily Zhou in the plot. She was also forced to marry off by Zhou's father who broke her legs. She is not stupid. It is best to avoid the limelight at this time. I turned around and drove back to Beijing. I originally got up early in the morning for this round trip, but it was already afternoon when I got back to Beijing. There was nothing in the refrigerator. The two of them ate outside and held hands for a while. Fen Ning was about to leave. His vacation time had come. If he didn't go back now, it would be too late. It's just that the two of them didn't spend such a long time together before, so Fen Ning could endure it. When he was in school, he had thought about Lily and could play her recorded voice on a loop to satisfy his cravings. But now she was so close to him, he could reach out and grab her. It was better to have a living person in front of him than a rigid mobile phone. So much so that Fen Ning didn't want to leave. But he knew he had to leave. When he was about to leave, he held Lily's hand with a hesitant expression. He wanted to spend more time with Lily and wanted Lily to send him out of the city. But think about it, even if she sent him out of the city. In the end, he was worried and had to send her back. Fen Ning couldn't bear to see her tired after tossing her around like this. In the past, Fen Ning always wanted to be a hero when he was young, but now he realized that when it comes to the love between his children and his children, heroes can sometimes be short of breath. After much thought, he came up with a compromise, which was to drive out of the city by himself. Lily didn't want to send him away, but she wanted to keep talking to herself until he left the city. During the 10 days that the two of them had met, Lily didn't know how he had so much to say. When he looked like he didn't want to leave unless he agreed, Lily nodded reluctantly. When she nodded, Fen Ning's expression changed. She became a little depressed. She couldn't live without her. When she thought about the possibility of not being able to see each other for more than a year after separation, her heart felt like a knife. Fortunately, she still looked calm. Fen Ning reached out and touched her face, gritted his teeth and said bitterly, "You are a heartless girl, one day you will know how powerful Brother Ning is." It was really too late. We had to drive for more than 10 hours to get to school. If we didn't leave now, I might not be able to get to school tomorrow. After dilly-dallying for a long time, Fen Ning still started the car with an ugly expression. Just when she left, Lily's cell phone rang, saying that she missed her. He had just left for less than half a minute, and Lily couldn't help but laugh when she heard his childish complaints. He usually couldn't say anything, but now he became more excited over the phone. He talked about things in his school, talking about the troubles he got into when he was young, and talking about the two people's life together in the future. Ning was like a piece of transparent white crystal, confessing himself to Lily without reservation. Lily sat downstairs by the flower bed, listening to him quietly. He talked and occasionally answered a few words. He had been in the military academy for more than a year and was much more mature than before. He looked cool in front of outsiders and didn't talk much. But in front of Lily, he talked a lot. It was a little hot, and a low battery prompt sounded. Ning also heard a low battery prompt. The one he bought for Lily was the same mobile phone, and the battery power should be about the same. When he heard the low battery prompt, Ning's originally radiant voice suddenly became a little lower. "Daughter-in-law, I miss you." His voice was choked with sobs, and Lily said nothing. "I really miss you. I wish I could graduate right now. Study hard. If your mind doesn't change, then I will wait for you." The disappointment in his voice made Lily sigh. As soon as she said these words, Ning suddenly heard a clang, followed by the sound of his cursing and the sound of brakes. He fumbled to pick up the phone, still shouting, "Daughter-in-law, I dropped my phone, please say it again." Beep, the phone's low battery prompt sounded, and then the phone automatically turned off. Lily held the phone, which was a little hot. Thinking of the look that might appear on Ning's face on the other end, she couldn't help but laugh. Got up. It was rare that the weather in the imperial capital was good today. Lily sat downstairs for a while and then went upstairs to charge her phone and turn it on again. As soon as she turned on her phone, before she had time to prepare dinner, the phone suddenly rang again. It was a stranger. It was a call from a number. Except for Ning, even Zoe's mother and others didn't know this mobile phone number. When she saw a strange call coming in, Lily answered the phone and Ning's voice rang. "Stand up. Daughter-in-law, you finally answered the phone." His voice was filled with tears of joy. Before Lily could speak, he continued, "You just said you wanted to wait for me, didn't you?" As soon as he finished speaking, someone next to him felt pitiful. 11 said, "Brother, are you okay? I have to leave. I have been waiting for half an hour." "Shut up," Ning covered the phone and shouted to the side. There was no sound immediately. Lily heard the sound of wind and car coming from his side and asked, "Whose phone is this?" "Don't worry about who's calling. Just say what you just said." As soon as Ning finished speaking, someone seemed to answer in a low voice, a call from someone who was unlucky enough to be stopped. Followed by when the sound was no longer heard, Lily couldn't help but want to laugh. Ning urged her anxiously, "Daughter-in-law, don't just laugh. Tell Brother Ning, did you say you were waiting for me?" "I'm waiting for you. If you don't change your mind after graduation and decide what you want, Ning, I will marry you." Although Zoe in this mission initially asked for a love that would have a beginning and an end, she thought about ending this relationship, but Ning refused to let go. The qualities in him that Lily didn't have easily reminded people of their youth. Lily thought about it and decided to give him a chance. Although the original owner's wish did not require that he and Ning stay together for a long time, if he could cultivate his first love into a positive relationship, he would not have to end up being sold by his father like the original owner in the plot. The original owner may not be completely satisfied with such an ending. Dissatisfied? "I won't change. Your brother Ning has never been so determined. Wife, you are mine." Ning's voice was excited at the beginning, but then gradually became gentle, and the male voice over there whispered again. After urging him, Ning turned around and shouted at him, calming him down. Then he said desperately to Lily, "The phone is out of battery. This is not my phone. I will call him later. The record has been deleted, but if this guy dares to call your number and disturb you later, You must not answer the call. It was not a call from me, he warned several times in a row, and finally became a little uncomfortable. Gan Xin, daughter-in-law, if you miss me, you have to wait for me. He reluctantly asked for several words in a sticky voice, which made people feel soft. Lily agreed and hung up the phone. There has been no news from Fenning for several days. Because the place he is in is quite special, the use of smart devices such as mobile phones is not allowed. He is afraid of leaking the secrets of the army. His mobile phone is usually turned off, so he cannot be contacted at all. Until a few days later, a message was sent to her mobile phone. It was sent from the mobile phone number he had borrowed before. It read, "Your man blocked the road and robbed me of my mobile phone. After using it, he made a lot of random calls to me. And all my call records were cleared. I just wanted to send this text message. I thought there was nothing I could do after getting so many extra numbers. I will send group text messages. With so many numbers, you will always be able to see them." Lily couldn't help but laugh again when she saw this message. To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 717. She had nothing to do during the winter vacation and sent things back to Zoe's mother. She didn't know if Zoe's father had been taken away at this moment. She waited until she called Zoe's mother during the Chinese New Year, and then she found out that Zoe's father had followed the old man more than 10 days ago. The girl ran away again, and before leaving, she forced Zoe's mother to get a divorce certificate. Zoe's father in the town originally received 5,000 yuan from her to marry off Lily, but when the matter failed to be settled, Zoe's father after being kidnapped, Zoe's mother kept nagging her daughter not to come back during the new year. She was afraid that Zoe's father would come back again. This time Zoe's father came back and beat her violently in order to force her to take money. He plundered all the money in the family and ran away. She was forced to call Lily at that time, but Lily had moved out of the dormitory at that time, and Chen Lele answered the call. At that time, Chen Lele didn't know where Lily was, and she didn't have Lily's contact information. Because Lily could not be found, Zoe's mother was beaten severely by Zoe's father. Fortunately, the woman who was with Zoe's father came back and took Zoe's father away. Zoe's mother was relieved. She felt sorry for her daughter, but she didn't mean it. She was not afraid of being beaten by Zoe's father, but she still had 2 children to raise. In Zoe's mother's mind, it would be best for Lily to go to college, but in Zoe's mother's heart, her son was actually the most important thing. But now that she was on the phone, she felt a little sorry for her daughter, so she asked Lily very diligently how her life was at school and asked her not to be too tired from work. She also said that she would work hard to make money and asked her not to worry about her family. Lily thought of Zoe's mother's cowardice in the plot, and then thought of her instructions now, and sighed in her heart, remembering that she had saved thousands of dollars, and when her brothers and sisters in the family were in need of money, she was prepared to celebrate the new year this time. Go back. But first transfer the money to Zoe's mother. When her own tuition is too big and it's not enough, she can just apply for a student loan. But when she was in the bank, she was about to withdraw the money. Seeing the sudden extra 100,000 yuan on the bank card, everyone was stunned. The money was transferred more than half a month ago. The person who transferred the money was named Feng, and the last character was blocked. But Lily could guess who did it. Feng Ning had done this before, but he didn't say anything to her. School started after the spring festival. Although Feng Ning said that Lily would not live in the dormitory, the two were not married now and were just in ordinary relationships. Lily still lived on campus and only occasionally cleaned on Saturdays or weekends. Yang Li moved out of the dormitory. In the second semester of her sophomore year, Yu Xiaotian got a boyfriend and moved out to live together. Only Lily and Chen Lele remained in the dormitory. Chen Lele obviously has a good family background and has properties under her name in the imperial capital, but for some reason she has been living in the school and her relationship with Lily is not that distant. But they are not very close. She once tried to be friends with Lily. Originally, Chen Lele thought that it would be easy to coax Lily into being obedient by her own means, but the relationship between Lily and her has always been lukewarm. It wasn't until the first semester of his junior year that the school rearranged 2 freshmen to move in, and Chen Lele gradually stopped going back to the dormitory. Since the last time Fen Ning took a 10-day leave to return to the imperial capital, he has not returned to the imperial capital for more than 3 years. He called Lily more than a year ago. He hung up in a hurry without saying a few words. There has been no contact since then. The 2 girls in the dormitory are already in their first year of college. From being young and innocent at the beginning, they gradually transformed into beautiful and charming ones. Their relationship with Lily is incompatible, but these 2 girls are quite interested in Chen Lele. Although Lily is already a senior, she does not dress well. She wears the same clothes all year round, as if she has never worn beautiful clothes. In summer, she wears simple shirts and pants. The 2 girls become more and more beautiful. After being fashionable, it was natural that he looked down on the rusticity of the senior. On the contrary, he was very fond of Chen Lele, who came from a wealthy family. Unfortunately, Chen Lele did not go back to the dormitory often, and even when he came back occasionally, he had no interest in these 2 girls with heavy makeup. On the contrary, Lily sometimes, even if she doesn't pay much attention to her, she also likes to talk to Lily. However, after her junior year, Chen Lele rarely went back to her dormitory. She had gone through the formalities at the school, so even if she didn't go back to her dormitory occasionally, the counselor would not trouble her. After her senior year in Lily's major, she followed a special tutor. After half a year, she was already preparing her thesis. As long as she passed, she could graduate early. This was troublesome for everyone, but Lily was not a student. 2 times, plus the few years she has been a student, because of her personality, she is very serious and never misses a class. Most of her spare time is spent studying in the library and preparing materials. He is very full, unlike other innocent and simple children. After graduating from high school, he is like a free bird. The tutors also like students like Lily very much, so when the others are busy, Lily still as usual. The 2 classes in the morning were over, and there were no classes in the afternoon. During her free time, bored Lily went to the library to find a few books, ready to borrow them back to her dormitory to pass the time when she was bored. Unexpectedly, when she returned to the dormitory, she found that they had always been empty. In the upper bunk, Chen Lele is sitting on the bed at the moment, opening a bottle of nail polish and painting her toes carefully. The 2 girls in the dormitory are still sleeping soundly. These 2 girls played with each other last night. I didn't come back all night. I just came back early this morning. Lily, you're back. Chen Lele didn't even raise her head. She hadn't changed much in the past few years. In the late spring and early summer, she was wearing tight jeans, which made her legs slender and straight. She was wearing tight white long sleeves underneath. T-shirt, covered with a black sweater, with long straight black hair similar to Lily's, which was tied up with a rubber band. She didn't put on makeup, but her temperament was better than the 2 in the dormitory who usually put on makeup to pretend to be adults. The girl is many times better. Chen Lele had an indescribable charm about her. She said hello to Lily. The balcony window in the dormitory was closed tightly. The 2 girls just didn't open the dormitory door because they were sleeping. There was a smell of nail polish inside. Smell, Lily nodded to Chen Lele as a greeting, put the things on the table next to her bed, and pushed the window open. The smell spread out, and Chen Lei's movements of applying nail polish froze. She quickly tightened the cap of the nail polish bottle and smiled at Lily. This is a new limited edition product. Only 1,000 bottles are sold worldwide. A friend brought me some when he went abroad. The effect is pretty good after applying it. Do you like it? Choose a few bottles. Chen Lei has always been very generous with these extraneous things. People's hearts are also very clever. When Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian didn't move away. If they like her things, they will give them away directly, so the two girls still like her very much even if they have moved away now. The relationship between them has always been very good, and Chen Lei has a good reputation in the school department. She is the dream lover of many boys, ranging from the seniors who have graduated to the freshmen who have just entered this year. As a girl, Chen Lei is good at dressing herself up, and she has discernment and doesn't wear heavy makeup. It's because she knew in her previous life that men don't actually like her women wearing heavy makeup. If it's okay during the relationship, it would be respectable to take girls out with makeup, but when it comes to real intimacy, most rich and powerful men love the pure and innocent. She is a student girl, not to mention having experienced it all her life. She has a deep grasp of the psychology of men. She doesn't usually wear makeup, but when she does it once in a while, she can stun men so much that they can't recover for a long time. The most important thing is that no matter how much good cosmetics are put on, they are never as good as when she was young and invincible. Therefore, in addition to skincare, she rarely puts cosmetics on her face, but she carefully matches her nail polish and small accessories. Also choose a scent that suits her so that people won't ignore her other parts because of her makeup. On the contrary, it showed her advantages even more. After her rebirth, Chen Lei learned many techniques to master men from men, so she did pretty well in this life. She waved to Lily and opened her makeup box, which contained more than a dozen nail polishes. Some of them have not yet been opened, and they are now enthusiastically bringing them down for Lily to pick a few. The other two little girls who were sleeping soundly in the dormitory heard the words limited edition. They opened their eyes all of a sudden. When they saw Chen Lei letting Lily choose nail polish, both of them stared with envy and jealousy on their faces, as if they wanted to be greedy but were embarrassed to speak. No, you know I never like to put on these things. I find it troublesome. Lily shook her head and rejected Chen Lei's kindness. She smiled, but frowned unconsciously. Lily never put on makeup. Yes, I have been with her for nearly 4 years. She doesn't wear nail polish or makeup. She has a calmness and solidity that girls of this age don't have. Chen Lei felt a little annoyed, put away her makeup bag, and nodded at Lily. I'm sorry, she was referring to the nail polish she applied before. She must have known that the smell of nail polish was suffocating people. Lily shook her head and said she didn't mind. She took the book and moved a chair to sit by the window and read. Stand up. That feeling came again. When Chen Lei saw Lily like this, she felt inexplicably irritated and uneasy. No matter how she tried to win over her in the past 4 years, her relationship with Lily did not get any further. The two little girls Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian are closer to her now than they are to their biological sisters. Chen Lei has learned to disguise herself after reviving her life, but no matter how she tries to get closer to Lily, it is of no use at all. The progress of the two of them is still at the same level as when they first entered school. This feeling is too weird. Originally, Chen Lei did not necessarily have to be friends with Beihe. After all, Beihe's family background was not prominent. Even if she had excellent grades, she had no backstage support and her personality was so cold. It would be difficult for her to get ahead in the future. At most, she could live a stable life. Forget it, if she hadn't seen her boyfriend, I'm afraid Chen Lei would have thought that people like Lily were either lonely or married to an ordinary man and had a few children in a lifetime. The husband and children could live like this in the mother-in-law's family, but she has a boyfriend who is worthy of Chen Lei's attention, So Lily's position in Chen Leilei's heart is different. As early as more than a year ago, she found out Fen Ning's identity through her friends. The old man of the Feng family is now the most precious and proud eldest grandson. She was really surprised by Fen Ning's identity. Chen Leilei comforted herself by trying to win over Lily because she needed to become friends with Lily. When she wanted to take revenge on the Chen family in the future, she hoped to use the strength of the Fen Ning family. But what exactly was she thinking? I don't know either. It won't be long before I turn 20. My dad is going to hold a banquet for me at home. Lily, we have been classmates for 4 years, so you can come too. Chen Leilei endured the chaotic thoughts in her heart and showed her face to Lily. With a smile, she put away her nail polish, which made the two little girls living on the other side feel heartbroken. The girl living in the lower bunk climbed to the upper bunk and looked at Chen Leilei from a distance. But they didn't dare to crawl over. Although they were not far apart, the expressions of the two little girls looked a little shrinking. Leilei, what brand is your nail polish? What Lily just rejected? The two of them wanted it, but they couldn't ask blatantly at this moment, so they had to ask in a roundabout way, if it was in the past. Chen Leilei might have been in a good mood, so she spread out her makeup bag and let the two little girls each choose one. But at this moment, she felt a little anxious for no reason. She ignored the two little girls' questions. Staring at Lily. My dad is going to choose a partner for me to get engaged to. I hope you can come. I have invited both Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian. When Chen Leilei thought of this, there was a hint of gloom in his eyes. After she came back from rebirth, she had no intention of renewing her relationship with her fiancé in her previous life. She simply couldn't stand such a bitch who had hurt her in her previous life, but Chen Leilei had no intention of taking advantage of that bitch. So even if she didn't like it, she didn't really let this man give up, but instead used her own advantage. She was so fascinated by this man that they were supposed to get married when she first entered college at the age of 18. But because Chen Leilei was reborn, in order to avoid the tragedy in her previous life, she was admitted to college a year early and declined. The fact that she was supposed to be engaged to that man when she was 18 only ruined the day when that bitch was brought into the Chen family. But now, after a few years of delay, she is 20 years old, and the bitch man's family has begun to urge the Chen family to get engaged. Chen's father has been coaxed very well by Chen Leilei in this life. Although I feel sorry for her. But Chen Leilei would not appreciate it in her heart. She would always remember the scene when her father looked at her coldly when she ended up like that in her previous life. Although Father Chen seems to love her, no one believes in a man like Father Chen. It would be good for the Chen family for her to get engaged to that man, so the other party's family urged her. Father Chen also has that intention. Maybe he will announce this at her birthday party. Well, congratulations. Lily didn't expect that Chen Leilei would actually get engaged. After her rebirth, she shouldn't have fallen in love with her original fiancé. It seems that there has been no change at this moment. After all, the coldness on Chen Leilei's face. Lily was not blind, she could tell. She paused for a long time before saying congratulations, but Chen Leilei suddenly smiled. What's there to congratulate? Others look down on him, but I don't like him. Why don't I give it to you? After Chen Leilei laughed, he replied to Lily as if he was joking. When the two girls on the opposite bed heard this, their hearts skipped a beat. Chen Leilei was a wealthy girl. Because she was the beauty of the department and a popular figure in the school, her identity and background had long been revealed. There were several people in the school with good backgrounds. The young masters and brothers have all chased her, but they have not succeeded. She does not like the second-generation rich people who come from a wealthy family. It is conceivable that the person who can get engaged to her is definitely not an ordinary person, but now she casually said that she wanted to marry her. Giving such an unusual fiancé to Lily, I have never seen her and Lily being very close to each other, but I didn't expect that Chen Leilei usually behaves intimately with Lily. It's okay if she can share cosmetics and skincare products, but now her fiancé it could be used to joke with Lily. The two girls bit their lips in jealousy and wanted to see it at Chen Lei's birthday party. Speaking of which, Liang Jinjiao may have some personality differences with me, but he is still an excellent person. He studied abroad for many years in his early years and received a master's degree from a prestigious university. He is also of the same age. He is gentle and elegant. He and I grew up together. I know his character very well. The Liang family is engaged in real estate, and as you know, the famous Jingsheng family belongs to him, and he is the only heir. Speaking of which, he and I just have a personality conflict, and we really don't call. After all, we have been together for many years. In my heart, he is like an older brother. Unfortunately, my parents recognized him and thought that since the two families knew each other well, he would not bully me when I get married. By some strange combination of circumstances, Chen Lei knew that Lily already had a boyfriend. But she still couldn't help saying these words. When she said this, her heart was beating with excitement, and she didn't dare to look into Lily's eyes. If you don't meet him, if you really like him, I will take care of him in the future. Lobbyist, you humming like me very much, Lily, you are so outstanding and beautiful, the Liang family will definitely like you too. Lele. When the two girls next to them heard these words, they felt like cats scratching their hearts. They couldn't help calling Chen Lele, and they were about to make a cheeky joke. Since you are such an outstanding person, Lele, don't you, if you like her, introduce her to us? Aren't we sisters in the same dormitory? Why are you only so nice to Zobei? Yes, it's not fair, Sister Lele, the two little girls said to each other. They had just entered college not long ago, when they were confused and lacked sense of proportion. The bustling life in the imperial capital could easily give girls dreams. There is a veil of mystery in the hearts of two girls, especially the so-called upper-class society, which makes the hearts of two girls with ordinary backgrounds even more exciting. As soon as the two of them talked, Chen Lele suddenly raised his head and stared at the two of them. And made no sound. Her expression looked a little gloomy, and her eyes that usually looked kind and friendly when she smiled were now looking directly at the two of them in black and white, which made the two little girls feel creepy, and a layer of cold sweat appeared on their backs for no reason. Dare to speak again. Lily didn't know the name of the ex-fiancé who betrayed Chen Lele in the plot, but she also knew that she was from a good background, no worse than the Chen family, and even more outstanding than the Chen family. Now she heard Chen Lele bring it after introducing herself. She felt a bit dumbfounded at the moment. She reached out and closed the book. The conditions sound very good, but you know, I have a boyfriend. Chen Lele knew that she had a boyfriend, so she wanted to introduce him. For some reason, when she said this, Chen Lele felt a little moved. Although Lily had a boyfriend like Fenning, a girl with her background, it is not easy to marry into the Feng family. Even if you marry into the Feng family in the end, life will definitely not be easy. After all, the status and background are too different. In addition, although Chen Lele dislikes Liang Jinjiao, who betrayed him, his own conditions, it's true that Chen Lele doesn't like him anymore, but Chen Lele will let Liang Jinjiao go and take advantage of the woman who took away everything from him in his previous life. Chen Lele will never be willing to let Liang Jinjiao stand next to that woman. Over there, it would be best to be her helper and introduce Liang Jinjiao to Lily. Privately, Chen Lele also knew that it was not good to drag Lily in, but her heart had long been unconscious when she was injured in the previous life. In addition to her own good life, the most important thing in this life is revenge. She will not be like that again. In her previous life, she was stupid and allowed others to plot her. She did have some different feelings towards Fenning. If Lily was really willing to be with Liang Jinjiao, although Liang Jinjiao was not as good as Fenning, at least she could still have a prosperous life for the rest of her life. At worst, I can keep an eye on her more and help her when she is in trouble, which can be regarded as an even deal. How long has it been since your boyfriend contacted you? I think he may have forgotten you a long time ago, and you are the only one who is so honest and still hanging on. There has been no news from him. How long are you going to live like this? In the future you don't know what the situation is. Even if you just don't like Liang Jinjiao, you don't necessarily have only one choice. Chen Lele couldn't help but speak, her voice became softer, as if she wanted to convince Lily, in college, I haven't seen him much, and the days ahead are still long. You can tolerate this situation for 3 or 4 years, but what if it is 10 or 20 years? Lily, a woman has to plan for herself in this life, so you can't believe it too much. Men, that's how men are, what they don't get is always the best. If you are too infatuated with him, you will only be hurt in the end. When Chen Lele said this, he didn't really want to discredit Feng. What Ning means is that these words are just words from her past life experience. She said them now just because Chen Lele felt. If you love someone, you can only love 4 points at most, and the remaining 6 points should be loved by yourself. If you don't love yourself, who will love you? When the two girls in the dormitory heard this, they felt as if they had drunk chicken soup for their souls. They took it as an imperial edict and good advice and remembered it firmly. To be continued. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 718. Lily, who was sitting on the balcony, smiled and said nothing. Chen Lele's so-called golden words sounded reasonable at first, but in reality they were fragile. If the two were selfish and refused to give a single thing when they first got together, if others are not fools, how can they truly fall in love with me? Even if I could bear it at the time, I was just coveting youth, beauty, and extraordinary beauty. In other words, Chen Lele sighed like this because she was blind and ignorant. If she had such thoughts and was with others, let alone Liang Jinjiao, she would be with Feng Ning with such thoughts. As a result, Lily was not optimistic either. If Chen Lele has no confidence in the man she chooses and is wary of him from the beginning, what's the point of being with someone she doesn't trust? She would never find the right one. Don't believe it. Chen Lele didn't care what the two girls in the dormitory thought. She just felt a little unhappy when she saw Lily being silent. After her rebirth, in addition to being sincere to her mother, everyone was on guard. It was rare that he just expressed his feelings and said a few words that were true to his heart to Lily. However, he did not expect that Lily would show such a look. You will know in the future whether what I said is true or not. It makes sense. I know what I know. Lily nodded, not wanting to continue talking to Chen Lele about such issues. She lowered her head and pretended to organize her books, but Chen Lele just thought she agreed. I'll have someone pick you up then. Lily, I think you don't seem to like buying clothes in the past few years. If you are free one day, let's go out for a walk. Buy a skirt. Yang Li and I have already made an appointment. The few people who lived together in the dormitory, except Lily, Yang Li, and Yu Xiaotian, have always had a good relationship with Chen Lele, and they have been together for 4 years. Lily originally didn't want to join in Chen Lele's excitement, but after thinking about it and having nothing to do, she already had a good idea of the paper and was ready to start writing it. Then hand it over to the instructor. The instructor has always had a good impression of her, so she should be able to pass it easily. Although Chen Lele had some selfish intentions in introducing Liang Jinjiao to her just now, she reached out to avoid hitting the smiling person. She had already let go. Lily begged with a face, thought about it for a while, and finally agreed. It was a face-saving gesture for her. Senior sister, do you have a boyfriend? Why don't we know about it, and we haven't seen him call you in the dormitory? Once Chen Lele saw Lily nodded in agreement, although her attitude was not very enthusiastic, she was given this honor, and she could tell that Lily didn't mean anything to what she said about Liang Jinjiao, and she didn't know that Lily understood Feng Ning's status. So he refused to look at other men, and decided to hang on Feng Ning's tree, preparing to marry into the Feng family later. Chen Lele chuckled softly in his heart, lowered his eyebrows, and listened to the two little girls carrying Lily. They gathered around and stopped talking. It's been a while since the two little girls moved into this dormitory. It's true that Lily rarely answers the phone from the dormitory. Occasionally, someone calls every 1 or 2 months, and the voices sound like they are her female elders or parents. She has a mobile phone. But I never saw her answer the phone, and it really didn't look like she had a boyfriend. Unexpectedly, they found out from Chen Lele that she had a boyfriend. The two little girls couldn't help but fantasize about what Lily's boyfriend was like. Come. In the end, they pestered Lily and found out that her boyfriend was not because of a busy work schedule or because he was some Prince Charming figure as they imagined. But when it was just her high school classmate who was a soldier, the two people immediately stopped talking. Chen Lele's birthday party is scheduled for mid-May, which is still about half a month away. Taking advantage of this period of time, Lily organized the graduation thesis that she had been collecting information one after another and handed it in. In the hands of the instructor, on Chen Lele's birthday, Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian, who had moved out of the dormitory for a long time, came back. The two had already put on makeup in advance, and each brought their boyfriends. Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian compared to a few years ago, she looks much more mature. Lily has now changed into a goose yellow skirt. Her upper body looks like a tube top design, but the upper part of her chest is sewn with light yellow tulle, and her waist is quilted. She kept it smaller herself. She took advantage of the time she was finishing her papers to buy it recently. It was not a masterpiece, but it suited her very well. This bright color is very attractive, but when Lily wears it, it makes the girl's skin white and translucent. She wears a pair of rented golden stilettos on her feet. Her hair is now hanging behind her back. She has no makeup on, but it is rare to see. When people who usually only wear shirts and jeans put on skirts, Yang Li and the two were still so shocked that they couldn't recover for a while. What's wrong? Lily put away her mobile phone and wallet keys, and turned around to see the two of them in a daze. Yu Xiaotian shook his head, took out a cosmetic bag from his bag, and placed it on the table. Lele, guess you don't have any makeup on, so let us bring that to you. Lily, do you need our help? In their impression, Lily had never put on makeup before. They thought she couldn't do it. Yu Xiaotian and Yu Xiaotian were ready to help her put it on, but they didn't expect. Lily shook her head. She didn't use any liquid foundation, etc. The girl's young and supple skin does not need to be covered with anything heavy. In addition, the body's skin is unusually white, so there is no need to apply it at all. She lives a regular life and looks good. She just put some lipstick on, and your whole face suddenly became brighter. When she finished packing and was about to go out, Yang Li kept staring at her, with jealous expressions on their faces. I don't usually see what skincare products you use, how come your skin is so much better than ours? Because Lily didn't put on makeup, it took a long time, so when a few people came downstairs, the driver sent by the Chen family to pick them up hadn't arrived yet, so Yang Li and the others surrounded Lily and asked her about her skincare methods. In fact, Lily does not take care of skincare. The quality of her skin now should be related to the increase in her own attribute values. The attribute values of her appearance are already very high, so when entering the mission, as long as the appearance of the original owner is not too bad, it will be fine. It's not that ugly, and since this body is young, it naturally doesn't require much maintenance. The reason why Yang Li have rough skin now is entirely because they often stay up late and lead an irregular life. In addition, they are about to graduate. They are both worried about dividing things with their boyfriends after graduation, which puts a lot of pressure on them. In the past, they used skincare products and cosmetics too much, so no matter how young you are, you can still see a haggard look after taking off your makeup. While talking, the Chen family's car drove over, and the two girls held their boyfriends' hands and got in one after another. Lily didn't want to be the light bulb, so she sat in front. This time, Chen Lei's birthday party was held at the Chen family's mansion. The Chen family mansion is not in the main city in the center of the capital. Instead, it bought a large piece of land outside the city and built its own manor. The car entered the sphere of influence of the Chen family manor and drove for more than 10 minutes when it stopped in front of the Chen family's villa. When Yu Xiaotian and Yu Xiaotian got out of the car, they glanced at each other. They were both shocked. They had always known that Chen Lei was rich. After all, Chen Lei's background had been stripped away by many meddlesome people in the school over the years. But now they were shocked when they saw that Chen Lei's family was so rich. As far as the eye can see, colored lights have been arranged all around. The lawn in front of the villa has been carefully arranged with some beautiful tables and chairs. A water screen movie has been prepared beside the huge fountain pool, and soft music is playing. There were several people dancing on the lawn. The scene was beautiful. It was just Chen Lei's 20th birthday dinner, but some celebrities that everyone could only see on TV in the past appeared. Yang Li held her boyfriend's hand. Shivering with excitement, Chen Lei was surrounded by a group of people, as dazzling as a queen. She was wearing a light white fishtail dress with the hem trailing on the ground. She had a slim waist when walking, and her long hair was tied up. She had a noble temperament and exquisite makeup, and was so beautiful that she looked like a real person. The smile on her face was like a perfect mask, which made people feel cold at the sight. When she saw the scene here from a distance, she quickly got rid of it. The people around led a tall man in a white tuxedo to come over. They first called someone to take Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian to the side to rest. Chen Lei took Lily's hand. "Lily, let me introduce to you. This is Liang Jinjiao. This is Zhou Beihe, my sister who has been in the same dormitory for 4 years." Chen Lei took Lily's hand. Her palm was extremely cold. The weather in mid-May was already hot. She stood up, but she didn't know whether it was because of the strong wind outside the city, or whether Chen Lei was wearing too thin clothes tonight. Her fingertips were so cold and slippery that it seemed as if she couldn't feel the temperature, which made Lily subconsciously want to take her hand back. Liang Jinjiao glanced at Lily, his eyes stayed on her for a few seconds, and then quickly moved back to focus on Chen Lei. Although Lily had dressed up tonight, Chen Lei was the protagonist tonight, especially since she had put a lot of thought into dealing with Liang Jinjiao after her rebirth. In addition, the two of them had grown up as childhood sweethearts, and their family backgrounds were very similar. Quite literally, Liang Jinjiao already had the intention to marry Chen Lei. Lily was pretty at the moment, but Liang Jinjiao was not stupid, so he still stared at Chen Lei in the end. Lily didn't show any shyness towards Liang Jinjiao, and shook hands with him very naturally. Liang Jinjiao definitely looked like the Prince Charming that young girls imagined. Tonight, he was wearing a tuxedo and looked elegant. But Lily didn't show any interest at all. Chen Lei was a little disappointed, but she wasn't the one waiting to stalk her. Seeing that neither of them showed any expression, it was obvious that there was no chance, so she smiled and quickly took care of her. Just as he had done with Yang Li and the other two before, he asked someone to lead Lily to sit aside, and then he took Liang Jinjiao's hand and left. To be continued. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 719. There was a cool breeze outside Kyoto, and the sky had already darkened, but the surrounding lights illuminated the surroundings like daylight. Not far away, you could hear the sound of cars driving into the manor. Chen Lei was as calm as a butterfly. Flying in the audience, Liang Jinjiao was by her side. Although she occasionally smiled at Liang Jinjiao, she was not close to him. Lily chose a seat and sat down. She leaned on the chair lazily without saying anything and watched the people coming and going. A faint smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. She regarded the people and objects in the manner as scenery. Look, but I don't know that in the eyes of some people, she has also become scenery. She has a young face and looks a little unfamiliar. Many people have managed to sneak into the Chen family. Although they admire Chen Lele and want to marry her, they also have the self-knowledge to know that Chen Lele will not. The men who were interested in them stepped back and focused on Lily. When she appeared in the Chen family, they only regarded her as some relative of the Chen family. If they couldn't marry Chen Lele, if they could find someone related to the Chen family, there are still many men who are happy to have a daughter-in-law, so many people have come to her to try to chat. Lily is not rude, but her gentle attitude reveals alienation and indifference. When she asked that she was just an ordinary classmate in Chen Lele's dormitory, many people's expressions changed immediately. From the beginning, they tried to introduce themselves, but later, these men just wanted to give her their business cards. There were some hints in their words, which made Lily want to laugh. Got up. Dang, 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 the sound of chiming like an ancient clock suddenly sounded on the manor lawn where soft music was playing. Many people who were sitting together in twos and threes subconsciously raised their heads and looked towards the sound. Past. Today is my daughter's 20th birthday. Chen is here to thank you all for your honor. You are able to take time out of your busy schedule to attend. In the middle of the lawn, which was temporarily decorated with a large number of flowers and pink ribbons, a handsome middle-aged man in a white suit suddenly stood over, holding a microphone in his hand. Started talking. Chen's father has a profound influence in the shopping mall. Chen's jewelry has occupied the imperial capital for many years. The Chen family's assets are rich. Chen's father opened his mouth. The surrounding music stopped, and many people who were talking also shut up. The man who looked to be in his 30s and whose hair was combed back with pomade and who hadn't left since he sat across from Lily, who hinted that he could take care of her, also closed his mouth and looked towards Chen's father. Lily also turned her head. Although she didn't hear what the man said just now, there was someone who had been lingering beside her for a long time, buzzing like a fly. She still couldn't help but feel a little impatient. At this moment, Father Chen's appearance made the man quiet down. The cold look in Lily's eyes disappeared again. Father Chen spoke passionately on the other end, and Chen Lele was quiet. Standing beside him, holding his hand, occasionally saying yes. They look like a loving father and daughter. From time to time, the crowd burst into applause due to the close interaction between father and daughter. For example, as Father Chen's speech was coming to an end, many people leaned towards Father Chen with wine glasses in hand, obviously wanting to take advantage of him. After the speech, he stepped forward to build a relationship. The man sitting opposite Lily also stood up and said, "Miss, you can think about it carefully. This is my business card. If you need my help, you can call me. As far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, since Miss Chen is a classmate of Miss Chen, she is now graduating from senior year. Although you and Miss Chen have a very good relationship, sometimes it is better to rely on friends than to rely on others. You will know this when you get out of society." He rushed. Lily cast a look. Lily put the business card away with a slight smile, and then the man proudly turned around and prepared to leave. Lily carefully put the business card into her bag and saw this action. The man's eyes shone with satisfaction. There was already a thick stack in her bag now. Most of the people who came to hand out business cards had evil intentions and treated her like a plaything. At first Lily could barely tolerate it, but later she became a little impatient, and she also not entirely without temper. He decided to collect all these people's business cards and give them all to Fen Ning when he returns. Today, I have one more thing to announce. Father Chen, who originally smiled and let Chen Lele hold his hand, suddenly changed his voice. Not only did he not turn around and leave after finishing speaking, he invited his daughter to dance first. After a dance, he became energetic and rushed to the side and stretched out his hand. In a corner filled with flowers, a young girl wearing a white short skirt with long straight hair like a lily reached out to brush her hair with some embarrassment. When she saw Father Chen stretching out his hand, just as he was about to hold hands, Lily suddenly saw a cold smile on the corner of Chen Leilei's mouth. All the lights in the audience that were originally focused on her and Chen's father fell on the girl, and the girl was illuminated a little. I was confused, and at the same time, the fierce and violent music also started playing. A large number of obscene photos were suddenly played in front of the light curtain fountain where Chen Leilei's photos were originally displayed. Many of the photos were filthy, and the male and female protagonists were not wearing clothes. A girl, she was lying among a group of naked men. The men couldn't see her face clearly, but the woman who was put in various humiliating positions was clearly the girl wearing a pure white skirt who appeared in front of everyone at this moment. There was a sudden silence in the originally lively place. The girl who reached out to Father Chen seemed to be petrified in an instant. When she saw this scene, her eyes showed complex expressions of resentment, shock, and fear. "Come on," the woman in the short video moaned in pain, and several men lay on top of her, ignoring her dodge, and now suppressed her. Turn it off," the girl screamed desperately. The short video played for about 2 minutes. Father Chen yelled angrily, and the surrounding area became a mess. People around him did not expect to see it. Seeing such a beautiful scene, everyone was stunned and speechless. He didn't expect that this time when she was invited by Chen Leilei to attend her birthday party, she would actually see such a good show. The girl was so for a moment, he covered his face and his legs shook like chaff. Before the light source was cut off, everyone's eyes fell on the girl. No one saw the excited light of Chen Leilei in the corner, like a poisonous snake in his eyes. As the power was turned off, the lights gradually dimmed, and Father Chen angrily shouted that no one was allowed to leave tonight. After Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian led their respective boyfriends around for half a quarter of an hour, they came to Lily by the light of their mobile phones. They all had panic expressions on their faces. They had never attended a wealthy family. This banquet was held in. I didn't expect that something like this would happen. The Chen family was surrounded by security guards, looking ready. "Lily, what should we do now?" Chen Leilei was surrounded by the center of the incident. They couldn't get away at all. When they came up the mountain, they were picked up by a car sent by the Chen family. Now that something like this happened to the Chen family and they were sealed off, they couldn't go down the mountain again. After all, Yang Li was only a 20-year-old. The girl who was in front of him was so scared that her legs were weak at this time. She didn't have the excitement at the beginning. She leaned next to her boyfriend and was so scared that she couldn't speak. Lily, who was usually calm, now became everyone's hope. Yu Xiaotian shook her legs. Because the lights around her were cut off, she couldn't see the expression on her face at this time, but when she heard the sound of her legs hitting the table legs when they shook, one could imagine the annoyance in her heart. It will be solved eventually. At most, we won't be able to go down the mountain tonight. It has nothing to do with us anyway. At worst, we can just leave tomorrow. Lily didn't care. It was obvious that Chen Leilei was responsible for today's disaster, and so was she before her rebirth. At the birthday party, her half-sister exposed the scandalous photos, and her reputation was ruined. She had to live a new life. This revenge would definitely be repaid in kind. The grievances between wealthy sisters were complicated and cruel. Lily and others are just a few little shrimps to the Chen family. At most, they will threaten them not to tell them. You definitely don't dare to keep people outside for a long time. I wouldn't have come if I had known. There was a hint of crying in Yang Li's voice. He also wiped his eyelids, and Yu Xiaotian did the same. Lily leaned back on the chair and didn't make a sound. She wore too little tonight. I didn't expect that something like this would happen. At this time, the wind blew under the night. She involuntarily crossed her shoulders. After about 5 or 6 minutes, The strong flashlight in the hand of the security guard not far away was shooting everywhere. In addition to Behi and others who were small people to Chen's father, there were other people in the manor. In addition, there were some friends from the business community, and it was impossible to keep the lights out, so the lights were turned on at the end. Father Chen was comforting the girl in a white short skirt, and Chen Lele was sneering next to her, as if watching a good show. Her appearance quickly aroused Chen's father's displeasure. He raised his hand and slapped her in the face. The soft sound of pop was drowned in the noise of discussion. Chen Lele lowered his head. A palm print quickly appeared on her fair cheek, and a few strands of hair that had been knocked down hung down on her face. She remained quiet and did not speak. Father Chen's eyes showed a guilty look, and he was about to turn around and tell his daughter what. She twisted up her skirt and turned around and ran away. After a while, the sound of the car starting was heard. Although the security guard had received the order from Chen's father not to allow anyone to go down the mountain, Chen Lele was not anyone, she was the Chen family. Miss, she wants to drive out, so naturally the roadblock has to be released. The car rushed out. Everyone looked at the car being driven out and surrounded Father Chen. Now that the protagonist has run away, Chen's father naturally has to clean up the mess. Everyone has registered tonight's guest list to find out the person who is behind the scenes. Lily, Yang Li, and other people are holding on until Chen's father registers. By the time it was over, it was almost done. People with money and status were the first to be registered and left separately. The registration of roles that were insignificant in Chen's father's heart, such as Lily and others, was naturally left to the last. After a night, Yang Li the makeup on their faces had long been stained by tears. Now they were trembling in shock and leaning on their boyfriend's arms. After reluctantly signing, the servants politely sent them out. But it was Chen Lele who picked them up when they came, and now they have to walk on their own legs. In such a situation, it is impossible for the Chen family to drive to see them off again. Yang Li's eyes were swollen from crying and she was sobbing. Choking. I wouldn't have come if I had known it, she was regretful. She said this no less than 30 times in one night. It was not yet midsummer, and the Chen family's manor outside Beijing was on the mountain, which made her lips turn black. Ching, coupled with crying, her nose was running non-stop now. Fortunately, she grabbed a stack of paper at Chen's house before leaving, otherwise she would have made a fool of herself. The three girls were wearing high heels and had a hard time walking down the mountain. Yang Li couldn't stand it after walking for a while. She coquettishly asked her boyfriend to carry her. Her boyfriend looked unhappy. Yang Li was too young, and her boyfriend turned against her. After all, this was not the time when they first fell in love. No matter how much love they had, the past few years of living together had become almost frustrating. They were yelled at and scolded by their boyfriend in front of the two sisters in the former dormitory. Yang Li, who had been pretending to be affectionate in front of Lily, couldn't bear it anymore, and her eye circles were red. Her boyfriend kept accusing her, saying, "It's all Yang Li's vanity. He was coming to Chen Lele's birthday party, so he was treated like a thief and asked to sign for inspection." Naturally, Yang Li was not convinced and replied, "When I found out yesterday that I was coming to Chen Lele's house, weren't you equally happy?" The two of them were quarreling more and more fiercely. Yu Xiaotian, who originally wanted to ask her boyfriend to carry her on his back, bit her lips and did not dare to speak out when she saw this scene. "Okay, what's the fuss about? Lily was wearing stiletto heels and must be tired after walking for a long time. This body has no martial arts skills, but the advantage is that she has practiced several improved physical training movements all year round, and her foundation is very good. In addition, Lily has a lot of endurance, so her expression is still calm until now." She was troubled by the quarrel between Yang Li and she asked with a frown. Yang Li lowered his head and couldn't get out. She shouted, and her boyfriend also stopped talking. Lily didn't want to get involved in their personal affairs, so the two of them were silent now. Naturally, he didn't want to say any more. Yu Xiaotian was about to suggest taking a rest for a while. The sun gradually came out. The few people were walking with sweat running down their cheeks. Lily also felt a slight pain in her calves. These sandals were still rented. If she walked it had to be worn out, so she had to spend money to buy it. In the past few years, the money she earned part-time outside was either sent home or used for her tuition and living expenses. The money she saved was not much. After all, Zhou Beihe's siblings are still young. Reading costs money, and Lily was about to take off her shoes and walk barefoot when the phone in her handbag suddenly rang. No one usually calls her on this phone, and some random text messages were banned when she applied for the card. Normally, I don't even receive spam messages, and Lily never downloads any game software. There are no advertisements. She usually uses her mobile phone to tell the time. Usually it may not ring once a year, but now her mobile phone rang. Apart from Fenning, Lily couldn't think of anyone else who would call her. Sure enough, Fenning's number on the phone was beating at the moment. Yu Xiaotian pulled Lily, and several people hurriedly hid under the shade of the trees planted by the road. As soon as Lily connected the phone, Fenning's voice came through. Come over. Where? There was something wrong with his tone and his voice was low. Fenning Gren never came back in the past 2 years after entering the military academy. Except for a phone call between the two more than a year ago, there has been no news since then. I didn't expect that he would call now. Since he was asking where Lily was, he must have been in the capital. He didn't reveal any news or words before. Lily was relieved. When he had time to ask him when he would take the holiday, Fenning couldn't bear it anymore. You weren't in the dormitory, and you didn't come home. Wife, where are you? Compared to a few years ago, his voice sounded much calmer, and when he spoke, his tone was a little more domineering. Lily had already flirted with him. Her hair was a little wet with sweat, and her neck, which had been very hot due to the thick hair sticking close to it, felt a little cooler. I'm outside the city. Yesterday, my classmates in the dormitory had their birthday and they invited me to go out to play in the city. I'll pick you up. The sound of starting a car soon came from over there. Fenning asked for the address. Beihe attended high school and college in Beijing for several years. Although he didn't go out of the city often, he could tell the general direction clearly. The Chen family is a well-known family in Beijing. Fenning can find it even if he doesn't know the specific address and adjusts the navigation. Lily is cautious and has a good memory. She memorized the general route when she went up the mountain last night. Now she told her where she was in a few sentences. The location was clearly explained, and since Fenning said he would come to pick him up, Lily stopped leaving and stood there waiting for him. It's just that he didn't hang up the phone after asking for the address. He pretended to be cool at first, but gradually his true form was revealed. Little girl Fengzi, when your brother Ning was not around, you didn't miss me at all. Instead, you went out to play with others. When he said this, although Lily couldn't see his face, she could still hear what Fenning said. Gritting teeth, I'm still playing until dawn and won't go back. Lily just smiled and listened to him ramble on and on. His airs could not last long, and his bones were still the same as before. When Yang Li and others heard that Fenning was coming to pick up Lily, they couldn't help but cheer. She breathed a sigh of relief and stood in the shade of the tree waiting. 20 minutes later, Lily's hand holding the phone was already sweating. The sound of cars approaching not far away gradually sounded. From far to near, a car, the black Hummer, rushed up from the rotating road under the mountain. After a sudden braking, the body slid forward and stopped. Do you miss your man? The sound of unfastening the seat belt and opening the door came from the other end of Fenning's phone. Lily shook her head honestly. Before she could say the word no, someone opened the cab of the car that had just stopped, and a pair of the long legs stepped out first, and Fenning, still wearing a dark green combat uniform, appeared outside the car with a mobile phone, with a cool expression, "Heartless." The voice sounded louder when he saw Lily. However, he stopped and couldn't utter another word. He still holds the phone in his hand. Compared with him more than 2 years ago, his facial lines are much deeper, his temperament is a little more resolute and cold, a little less green, and he has become much calmer, as if he has grown taller again. The figure became lean and strong, a few buttons on the chest were unbuttoned, revealing the looming bronze chest, and the looming ring hanging around the neck. The corners of his mouth were raised and he wore sunglasses, making it difficult to see the expression in his eyes. Through the lens, he saw the girl standing in the shade of the tree, wearing a long goose yellow skirt. This was the first time in Fenning's memory that he saw Lily wearing a skirt. Her slender and soft waist was like a willow, revealing the side of her straight and slender legs made Fenning feel a little unable to move. He had missed her crazy for more than 2 years, but he didn't dare to call her. He was afraid that once he dialed her number, he wouldn't be able to hold on. He ran back to find her. He was afraid that there would be someone else around Lily without his company. He had dreamed countless times about the next meeting between the two, and thought about what Lily would look like in a few years. But Fenning didn't expect that she would give him such a surprise. Probably because she was hot, she pushed her hair to one side of her chest. She was used to seeing Lily wearing trousers. Fenning sometimes dreamed about their wedding, but never imagined Lily wearing a skirt. Now but she suddenly appeared in front of him. The rare sight made Fenning's throat roll. He thought about rubbing her into his arms after seeing her 1,000 times. He even thought about meeting her when he drove to pick her up. How could he relieve his lovesickness, but when he really saw it, it was even more beautiful than he imagined, but he was so excited that he couldn't speak and couldn't walk, he just stared at her blankly. This was not the first time that Lily saw Fenning wearing sunglasses. Somehow, seeing Fenning who looked much more mature than before, Lily suddenly remembered that when she first entered the mission, that person was wearing sunglasses and nondescript clothes. A young man with a huge guitar hanging on his body was singing and wooing her. His expression was cold and flamboyant, making people afraid to approach him. The domineering aura on his body was no different from that of his youth. Such a person, who would have thought that a few years ago, Fenning was still a rock and roll singer who initially claimed that he wanted to be a rock and roll singer? The image of Fenning as a boy overlapped with that of him as an adult. Lily suddenly couldn't help but burst into laughter. Her smile seemed to break a curse, and the sound reached Fenning's ears through the mobile phone. He seemed like a prince who had just been rescued from his petrified state. His legs, which had been unable to move, suddenly obeyed his orders again. Lily smiled inexplicably, but Fenning somehow could feel what she was smiling from her eyes. He couldn't help but grinned, and he strode towards Lily with his mood like a flying kite. "Daughter-in-law, I love you like a mouse loves rice. You are my heart, you are my liver, you are my little sweetheart." Compared with a few years ago, his voice was deeper. It sounded like a string in one's heart was gently plucked, causing strings of trembling millet. The aftertaste lasted for a long time, making people feel uncomfortable all over. Very satisfied. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 720. The lyrics were from several years ago. Fenning has been in the rock and roll industry for many years. He may not remember the lyrics clearly now. After all, 4 or 5 years have passed, but he can still hum the general tune. It is just the same as when he sang it with unscrupulous publicity. The difference was that his voice was low and affectionate now. When he strode towards Lily, the closer he got, The smile on the corner of his mouth got bigger and bigger. In the end, Lily no longer listened to him through the phone microphone. The song started to sing. When she took the phone away from her ears, she could hear the singing from Fen Ning's mouth. Lily hung up the phone and put it in her bag. Fen Ning saw her movements and reached out to untie her own phone. Buttoning his clothes, when he arrived at Lily's side, he first used his clothes to cover her from the waist down, and finally pulled her into his arms. "Do you miss me? You are not allowed to shake your head, you are not allowed to say no, you can only say yes." Fen Ning lifted her up. Although there was a coat blocking her, he was afraid that his movements would cause her skirt to slide up when she was picked up. Someone saw that the coat was not wrapped tightly, and Fen Ning still held her thigh with one hand, tightly pressing the clothes wrapped around her. The girl's soft body was pressed against him, and Fen Ning felt that his blood was almost boiling. A simple hug made him almost unable to control himself. The two of them had been separated for too long. But because Yang Li and others were still there, Fen Ning didn't do anything. He just hugged her hard. Rubbing it in my arms, it was like something I had done thousands of times in my dreams, and I was a little reluctant to let go. Seeing that Lily was wearing a pair of stilettos, when he picked her up, the slender heels had fallen off, revealing a blister on the back of her foot. Fen Ning held Lily in his arms with one hand. He didn't hold Lily up in his arms. The skirt his wife was wearing today was pretty good looking, but her legs were all being looked at. Fen Ning felt a little uncomfortable, to tell the truth. He wanted to teach her a lesson but was reluctant to do so. He wanted to nag her, but looking at the two couples next to him, Fen Ning still endured the words that were about to come to his lips. One hand easily took off Lily's shoes and hung them on her fingertips, then turned around and walked towards the parked car. Lily lay quietly on his shoulder, her hair blown between his face by the wind brought by his movements. Fen Ning turned around and kissed the back of her head hatefully. Everyone has seen her legs. He was still brooding over this matter, but Lily raised her eyebrows when she heard this, but remained silent. It wasn't until she felt Fen Ning's hand pulling her skirt down through her coat that Lily stretched out her legs to kick him. One time. "The skirt is torn." Fen Ning stopped pulling. The hand that was originally pulling the skirt tightly covered her legs, and after a long time, it began to touch her up and down dishonestly. He was only wearing a thin vest, and Lily was close to him, feeling that his heartbeat had changed. Couldn't help but kicked him again, and he was still outside on the road. Not to mention the possibility of people coming and going, there was Yang Li and others behind her. She was not wearing shoes, so kicking Fen Ning was no different from tickling him. His body seemed to be made of steel, but on the contrary it was because Lily was aching slightly after kicking her toes, but fortunately Fen Ning came to her senses. He carried her back to the passenger seat of the car and sat down, then went around to the other side of the cab and sat directly on it. Yang Li and the others quickly waited for Fen Ning to unlock the rear door and climbed in. This Hummer was an extended one. The interior is very luxurious. The air conditioner was on inside, and the people who had been walking under the scorching sun for a long time couldn't help but let out a long breath. This car was much better than the one Chen Lele sent to pick them up yesterday, and they didn't dare to touch it casually. Yang Li thought of the situation when she just asked her boyfriend to carry her for a while, but he impatiently refused. Thinking about how Fen Ning had taken her into his arms without Lily having to say anything, she felt both aggrieved and envious. She couldn't help but ask, "When did brother-in-law come back?" Fen Ning kept chattering while talking to Lily. Fen Ning was shameless and could say anything. But when others talked to him, he didn't want to pay attention to him, and asked with a cold expression, "Where are you going?" Although Fen Ning was filled with joy when hearing the word brother-in-law, Lily was originally his wife, and it was only natural for people to call him that. If Yang Li and Yang Li hadn't called him brother-in-law, Fen Ning wouldn't have known it at all. He wouldn't let them get in the car and ruin the world between himself and Lily. At this moment, he didn't say anything and only asked where they were going back. Yang Li naturally could see that Fen Ning didn't want to pay attention to her. His expression was a little awkward, but he also understood in his heart that people like Fen Ning were naturally arrogant. At the moment, he did not dare to feel dissatisfied or act coquettishly, for fear of asking for trouble. Fen Ning still had a cold expression on his face. Scary, Yang Li glanced at Lily, and Lily thought for a while. Why don't you send them back to school? The houses that Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian rented are not far from the school. When they get to school, they are not far back, so that Fen Ning doesn't have to send them to school separately. The two of them went back separately, otherwise Fen Ning might have kicked these 4 people out of the car after entering the city. Hearing this, Yu Xiaotian nodded hurriedly. Fen Ning glanced at Lily with a depressed look, stepped on the accelerator, and the car rushed down the mountain. She didn't sleep all night last night, and there was some wind. She was tired after walking for a while in the morning and basked in the sun. Lily was also a little out of energy. Now she was leaning on the car and closing her eyes to rest. Fen Ning looked back at her from time to time. Even though she tried her best to control it, she still laughed from time to time. Fortunately, the few people behind her couldn't see her, and she slowly fell asleep. Fen Ning raised the temperature of the air conditioner in the car. She was driving in a hurry and wanted to hurry up. He drove the extra people in the car back to school, but once he drove too fast, Lily couldn't sleep well. Sometimes she would wake up from the shaking, so she would try to sit up straight. Fen Ning would drive slower later on, and when Lily woke up at this time, the sun was setting outside. She was not in the car, but lying in Fen Ning's arms. The skirt on her body had been taken off at some point. Lily was still a little surprised when she opened her eyes. Last night was indeed she was tired. After she fell asleep, Fen Ning had enough strength to carry her out of the car without waking her up. It didn't matter. He just took off her skirt and didn't feel it. She was not such an unwary person. Lily turned around and wanted to leave him. From a distance, unexpectedly, as soon as she moved, the person in her arms hugged her tighter with vigilance, and one leg possessed possession of her waist, locking her firmly in his arms. "Where do you want to go?" Fen Ning's voice sounded, and his long legs rubbed against her delicate and naked legs twice. Gradually, something was wrong. Lily was ejected from her body before she could speak. She saw the goose yellow dress she bought for Chen Lei's birthday had been torn in half and thrown on the ground. No wonder she couldn't feel his undressing movements. Fen Ning never took off her dress normally. He sucked, licked, and bit her body like a puppy. Zhou Bei no longer had Lily's control in her body and could only move instinctively. Fen Ning didn't even notice the strength of her struggle. Originally, Lily thought Fen Ning probably wouldn't give up this body, but in the end he just wailed, bumped her hard twice, got up and rushed into the bathroom that came with the room. After a while, the sound of boiling water was heard. There was a sound, and when Lily returned to her body, Fen Ning had already come out with his upper body naked. He still had a towel around his waist. He was still kicking water on his feet when he came out, dripping all over the floor. He walked towards the bed. He sat over and stretched out his hands to take Lily into his arms, but Lily rolled up under the quilt to avoid his movement. "Don't make trouble." Fen Ning didn't dare to reach out and grab her, for fear that he couldn't control himself, otherwise Lily might not be able to escape. Seeing her wrapped in an air conditioner and being taken into the bathroom, Fen Ning followed her step by step, talking about her. Lily ignored him for not going home last night. She entered the bathroom and immediately locked Fen Ning out. Fen Ning stood by the door, waiting for her to close the door. After a while, she handed over the quilt again. When he came out, he took the quilt with one hand and threw it to the ground. Seeing that her fingers were slender and her wrists were as thin as if he would break them if he applied just a little force, he couldn't help but reach out and grab her hand, thinking that she was at someone else's house last night. I stayed there all night, and read a few words to her, but she didn't listen. I bit her so much that it hurt and I couldn't let go. In the end, it was me who felt distressed, so I just took a few licks. It was probably a little itchy. I quickly struggled to retract her hand, and the door opened. It was locked inside, and Fen Ning leaned against the door and couldn't help laughing. He just didn't want to touch her before getting married. He wanted to leave a good memory for her on their wedding night. The more he held it in his heart, the less he wanted to destroy it. Otherwise, how could this small door stop him? He didn't force himself when he had the chance before. If all he really wanted to get was his body, he would have gotten it long ago. She turned on the water and took a shower. She didn't sleep all night last night, but she slept for a while during the day. Lily was much better now. She took another shower. She took a bathrobe and wrapped her body around her when she went out. As soon as she opened it, before she could react, an arm hugged her waist and trapped her in his arms. Fen Ning never left when she was taking a bath, and stayed by the bathroom. Now when Lily came out, Fen Ning caught her in his arms just in time. "Are you hungry?" he stole a kiss first and then asked. The Chen family didn't eat much last night, but I wonder if they were too hungry. Lily didn't feel hungry at the moment. When Fen Ning asked, she shook his head. "Why did you go to her house yesterday? Chen Lele is not a good person. You are not allowed to play with her in the future." Fen Ning put his hand into the bathrobe and stroked her waist. He did not dare to go further, but he was reluctant to slide the tender tofu under his palm. So his hand only slid around his waist and did not touch other places. He was still talking about what happened to the Chen family last night. Lily couldn't help but glared at him. "When did you come back?" "To be completed," continued Carrot. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 721. After Fen Ning saw her, the two of them didn't have time to say anything. Lily didn't want to ask him anything, but she wanted to change the topic after hearing Fen Ning read endlessly. Fen Ning glanced at her. "Last night." Originally he just asked casually, but he didn't expect to get such an answer. Lily was really surprised. According to Fen Ning's character, he only called her this morning after returning last night. It was really weird. If he followed his previous behavior temper, he wanted to come back last night, so he should have called her at that time. He might have urged her to leave the dormitory. Lily raised her eyebrows and glanced at him. Although her expression did not change, there was a hint of information in her eyes. She wondered if the distance between her and Fen Ning had become smaller in the past few years. Just like what Chen Lele said, Fen Ning never came back and rarely called her. His feelings for her had weakened. Now it's not the same as before. Originally, Lily thought that she had changed her original plan to fall in love with Fen Ning, but if Fen Ning changed her mind, she would probably adjust back to her previous approach, so she didn't look panicked at first. She has not touched the 100,000 yuan that Fen Ning transferred to her card in the past few years, but in the past 2 years, he has transferred money twice more. There is now nearly 1 million in the card. Between the two of them, it seems that they have been deeply entangled for more than 5 years, but actually it is not difficult to break off. Lily did not speak, but Fen Ning seemed to understand what she was feeling in her heart. Her eyes dimmed a little, and finally he rubbed her waist bitterly, not daring to use too much force, but it made Lily shrink back from the itch. "What are you thinking about?" Fen Ning couldn't help but stretched out his legs to press Lily's lower body to see if scratching her would help. He couldn't help but scratch her twice more. It's been hard for him these past few years. He couldn't bear to beat or scold Lily, for fear that he would be the one who suffered in the end. Sometimes he was so angry that he couldn't bear to bite her, just for fear of hurting her. When my mother sent Aunt Wang to break up the two of them, she wanted to break up. At that time, Fen Ning was really angry, but in the end he bit her lip, and Fen Ning didn't say anything at the time. Afterwards, I felt heartbroken for a long time. Secretly, like a lunatic, he used the buns to resemble her lips, not daring to use too much force. He practiced many times and never bit her again when kissing her. When had Fen Ning ever done such a shameful thing? He likes her so much. But this girl has always been cold and indifferent, as if she can survive without him. Now Fen Ning has found a way to deal with Lily. Naturally, he keeps attacking, but Lily still tolerates it at first. Eventually I couldn't help but started to struggle, and I was about to laugh when my waist was touched. This is nature, unless the body is unconscious or slow to react. Lily can't think about the bank card or the breakup of the two at the moment. Her lower body is pressed by Fen Ning, and his hands are gently tickling her waist and armpits. It tickled her so much that she laughed and dodged. Call brother Ning. Fen Ning, who had a somewhat gloomy look in his eyes, looked at Lily and laughed so hard that tears almost flowed out, but he couldn't stop struggling. Her toes were rubbing together like a rabbit in his palm. But no matter how hard she struggled, she couldn't get out of his grasp, and couldn't help but laugh too. Now she couldn't be cold anymore, her cheeks were as red as clouds when she smiled, and she didn't ignore him as usual. He said, what is, brother Ning? Will you still have random thoughts in the future?" Fen Ning raised the corner of his mouth and asked again. Lily shook her head quickly. She had never laughed so happily in front of Fen Ning. Tears filled her eyes. She was not as cold as before. It's really good looking. Now he knows how to beg for mercy. He will do whatever he says. Even people who have never called him brother Ning are now called out by him when he forces them to do so. Fen Ning, seeing her chest rising and falling with laughter, her face seemed to be stained with red clouds, and her neck turned pale pink. The bathrobe that was originally tightly wrapped now fell apart, and her exquisite and graceful body was looming. She had just rushed out. After taking a cold shower, he felt that his heart was burning again. She was trapped in his arms, smiling wantonly, and something in her heart seemed to be overflowing. Fen Ning's expression became gentle and her voice lowered. Daughter-in-law. He licked the corners of Lily's lips with his tongue, and finally slowly and intimately deepened the kiss, trapping her tighter in his arms. I came back last night. I wanted to give you a surprise, but I bumped into someone. Lily seemed to be in a daze just now. When she woke up, Fen Ning was holding her on her chest. She didn't struggle. Listening to Fen Ning quietly, it's not that I don't want to see you, I miss you. Sometimes I secretly use my mobile phone to play your voice. If I'm caught, I will be punished. In those few years, Fen Ning was a middle school student in the military academy. It is not easy for a person with such a good face and flamboyant personality to survive being the object of everyone's ridicule. Fen Ning didn't like her random thoughts, so he explained a few words first. When he was with others, he had nothing to say, but when he was in front of Lily, he talked a lot. He missed her, and sometimes he wished he could smuggle her to the military camp. Here, most of his dreams are related to her. He had graduated from the military academy 2 years ago and joined the army early. He had been performing tasks at the border more than 2 years ago. The army stipulated that he could not carry mobile phones until half a month ago. He completed a case of bringing a large number of new strains of bacteria into the country, and made great contributions. The Feng family's power in the military was there, and he made great contributions again. Therefore, this time he was promoted quickly, and his achievements were reflected in practice. With experience, Fen Ning's future will no longer have to be improved at the expense of being separated from Lily all year round. This was the condition he negotiated with his father in order to be with Lily. Now he has done it and rushed to the country without stopping. I want to take advantage of this opportunity and wait until Lily graduates to get married. Fen Ning didn't want to be delayed because of some trivial matter at this juncture. The thing he had planned for so many years was about to succeed. No one could stop him. The Feng family couldn't do it back then, but now naturally there can be no misunderstanding. Fen Ning has always been a straightforward person. What he wants, he will definitely use the simplest method to get it. If there is a distance of several meters between him and what he wants, and there is an obstacle in the middle, Fen Ning's character is I would rather remove the obstacles directly, use the fastest speed and the shortest distance, and get what I want without wasting time. But when I faced Lily, he was willing to use the little patience he had in his life to take his time. But more than 5 years have passed, and he can hardly bear it anymore. Even holding her like this is not enough. He doesn't want to wait any longer. Hit someone. Seeing the determined look on Fen Ning's face, his edges and corners were much more resolute than 5 years ago, his brows and eyes were full of dominance and firmness, his eyes were unruly, and his hands were now wrapped around Lily's body. He grasped it easily at her lower back, seemingly without any force, but it was like building a cage, making it impossible for people to struggle out. Lily couldn't help but ask him, and his thick eyebrows suddenly wrinkled. I bumped into a woman. There was an impatient look on his face, and he tightened his arms. It's the one in your old dormitory. She said she wanted to have dinner with you. After Fen Ning finished speaking, it took Lily a while to understand. Come here, he should be referring to Chen Lele. After all, he only has a few friends in the same dormitory around him, and Yang Li and Yu Xiaotian were with him last night, except for Chen Lele. After Chen Lele released the scandalous photos of her half-sister at a banquet last night. At that time, Chen's father was furious, and the two fathers and daughters had an unknown dispute. Chen's father raised his hand and slapped her. Chen Lele seemed to be unbearable and drove down the mountain. Unexpectedly, she would be hit by Fen Ning. Thinking about the first meeting between Chen Lele and Fen Ning in the plot, Chen Lele rushed out of the house in the middle of the night because of a conflict with Chen's father when he was at his lowest point during his rebirth for revenge. In the end, she was hit by Fen Ning. Because of her fragile and pitiful appearance, Fen Ning couldn't bear to leave her behind. So he sent her to the hospital, where they got to know each other and finally fell in love. Chen Lele's scene of driving out last night can be regarded as consistent with the conflict with Chen's father in the plot, and the scene of rushing out of the house and bumping into Fen Ning in the middle of the night. However, I don't know if the development in the second half will be the same as in the plot. For a moment, he was a little embarrassed. If Fen Ning had pity for Chen Lele because Chen Lele hit his car, then regardless of whether Fen Ning liked Chen Lele or not, Lily was not going to get involved in this matter. She didn't like it. This feeling made Fen Ning frown slightly. Looking at her expression, Fen Ning stretched out his hand to hook her chin and lift her face up. I won't have any contact with her in the future. Wife, don't let her teach you bad things. She rushed out like crazy yesterday. I don't know what happened to her. Fen Ning had a look of disgust on his face. He was in a high mood last night. After getting off the plane, the Feng family sent a car to pick him up. He kicked the poor driver out of the car directly. In the middle of the night, without saying a word, he drove to the house he had bought, but it turned out that there was no seeing Bei. Fen Ning had no choice but to drive towards the school again. There were not many people on the road in the middle of the night. He ran through several red lights in a row. When he saw that he was almost at the school, he didn't expect a man in a white dress. But the person came out from the direction of the school and rushed towards his car. Fen Ning was in a hurry to see Lily, so he drove at an unusually fast speed. The figure seemed to have taken the initiative to greet him. Fen Ning was very calm at the time and his reaction was also quick. Even though I turned the steering wheel sharply, I still hit someone. The moment he felt the car hit someone, Fen Ning's heart beat like crazy, and he had the urge to get out of the car and beat the person who was not hit to death. Originally, he was not a good man, and this man wearing a white long trousers, the person in the skirt, hit him on his own initiative, and he turned the steering wheel. Although the Hummer he was driving was an extended one, its agility was no worse than that of a small car. He knew whether he hit someone or not. Since the person who was hit deserved it, and he was not killed. It seemed that at most he was carried by the corner of the car and fell to the ground. Fen Ning was not prepared to take care of it at first. He wanted to call the emergency number of the hospital and dropped it. Just want to run away after stacking money. After all, he was eager to return home at that time. He had been thinking about Lily for more than 2 years, and he was about to see his wife. Naturally, he didn't want to be delayed for some inexplicable reasons, but his reaction to being knocked to the ground was very quickly. He grabbed the car and climbed up, pointed at him and smiled, saying that he recognized him and that he was Lily's friend. Fen Ning was even more unhappy because he said one less male word in front of his friend. He quickly backed up the car and wanted to get rid of this man. Unexpectedly, the woman was clinging to the window. When he retreated, she was just rubbed. Hanging upside down, there were no major injuries on her body, but when Fen Ning backed away, she held onto the car tightly, but her ankle bones were misaligned, and the small problem turned into a big problem. She also said that she knew Lily and was Lily's friend. Fen Ning couldn't even run away now. It's not that he's afraid that people will come to trouble him after he runs away. He's not afraid of how much money he should pay, and it's not like he can't afford the money to compensate Fen Ning. He just bumped into Lily's friend. He was afraid that his wife would feel guilty if he asked about it later, and he was also afraid that Lily would be angry with him. Fen Ning endured the anger in his heart at that time, waited until the ambulance came, and followed the car to take her to the hospital. This girl in the hospital pulling him to talk, she said her name was Chen Lele and she was a classmate of Beihai University. A roommate in a dormitory, the two were as close as sisters, and said that Lily was not in the dormitory at the moment, but went to her house to play last night, and comforted him not to worry, saying that there were many people on the mountain. Lily is beautiful and cute, someone will definitely send her down the mountain. Fen Ning had suppressed his impatience at the beginning, but now he couldn't bear it anymore when he heard these words. He turned black and walked away. He remembered who this person who called himself Chen Lele was. He was from Lily's dormitory. He probably has an impression in his mind. After all, he is not with his wife, so what friends has she made? Fen Ning didn't know. He just wanted to know more about her to make up for the gap between the two. When Chen Lele talked about her own identity, Fen Ning knew who it was. He looked at this girl's eyes at the beginning. Complex, unlike his wife who is cold and indifferent and doesn't pay much attention to people. Fen Ning didn't like the way she looked at people at that time, and couldn't explain why. It's just that he doesn't like this kind of indescribable complexity. He still remembers asking Lily to stay away from her. At this time, he remembered who Chen Lele was, and was sure that she was Lily's friend. He listened to what she said, and she didn't say a word about what was wrong with Lily. But Fen Ning felt something was wrong all over. He was indeed eating Lily and going out to play with a man. Being jealous around her, Fen Ning doesn't want anyone to have ideas about his wife, let alone drive her away, but he is not stupid in his heart. He can close the door and talk about his family affairs slowly, and his wife can take her home. He tried hard to persuade and brainwash him, but in front of outsiders, he naturally wouldn't say a word. He was about to leave. Chen Lele covered her face and cried. Unfortunately, her tears were worthless in Fen Ning's heart. If the person he cared about sheds tears, it would naturally be heart-wrenching for him, but even if the tears of those who are irrelevant are shed, they will be shed. If he shed tears, what does it have to do with him? I bumped into someone last night and worked on it for a long time. Because she was my wife's friend, I delayed it for a while. When it was done and it was already done, Fen Ning called Lily and asked where she was before driving directly. Picked her up. His tone was wrong when he made the call, just because he was a little disgusted by Chen Lei's words. It was not that he didn't want to contact Lily when he came back last night, but because he didn't want her to know that he bumped into Lily's friend. She is not happy. That's it? Wife, don't think too much. I haven't even touched a hair on her head. Your brother Ning is yours. He's still waiting for us to get married. After he finished speaking, he laughed twice. His skin is thicker than before. When he said this, his face was neither red nor out of breath. Lily couldn't help but roll her eyes at him and didn't want to reach out to push him. His upper body was naked, and his lower body was only covered with a bath towel. Fen Ning was everywhere when he touched it. Taking advantage of her, she couldn't help but ask, "Then why didn't you tell me about this yesterday? She said she was your friend, and she said it very clearly. If it really has anything to do with you, I'm going to knock her out. What if you want to be angry with me and won't let me touch you?" Fen Ning moved his fingers. Lily moved, her Adam's apple slid twice, and her eyes became a little deeper. Lily gathered up her bathrobe, and she couldn't laugh or cry. "Then you know now that you are not my friend? What if you are really my friend, why don't you tell me?" When he saw Lily's actions, he had a look of regret on his face. He wanted to pull her collar apart and bully her severely. There were thousands of thoughts in his mind, but he didn't dare. His eyes were red, so he endured it. He has endured it for several years. He was able to endure it when he was the most impulsive and youthful. Now the fruits are about to mature. He has been in the army for several years and his endurance is much better than before. There is no reason for him to be so patient now. Couldn't help it anymore. Fen Ning recited military discipline several times in his mind, held it back, and said confidently, "If it's really your friend, of course I can't tell you." He really dared to say such words. Lily couldn't help pinching his arm. Fen Ning giggled, quietly relieved in his heart, and hugged her tighter. After a while, Lily didn't want to go out for dinner, but she had never lived in this house before Fen Ning came back. There was no food in the refrigerator, except for the few bottles of mineral water she would bring when she came here every week. There was no food at home, and she could only go out to eat at this time. Even if Lily didn't want to go out anymore, she was still pulled up by Fen Ning. Just now, the air conditioner was thrown aside by Fen Ning. Now there is no cover on the bed. Fen Ning took a new piece of underwear from the cabinet and handed it to Lily. The underwear she wore yesterday was thrown in the middle of the yellow skirt and had not been cleaned. Fortunately, Fen Ning bought it for her when he took her shopping. There were several sets of clothes, but Lily didn't take them to the dormitory as it was too troublesome. Fen Ning changed clothes in front of Fen Ning. Fen Ning had no intention of turning around. Lily had to turn around by herself, lowered her bathrobe to her waist, put on her underwear, and when she was about to button the buttons with her backhand, she sat aside. Fen Ning, who had been waiting for a long time, couldn't help but grab her hand. His palms were trembling as he buttoned up the buttons for her, and kissed her inside the vest several times. Lily glared at him several times before he took it off. "Put some clothes on, Lily." Fen Ning had already opened the blisters on her ankles while she was sleeping and applied medicine. It didn't hurt. Lily got her bag and handed the stack of business cards she received last night to Fen Ning's hand. Fen Ning smiled grimly. Then, he collected these things very solemnly. Kyoto has become more prosperous in recent years. The two of them found a restaurant to dine. After the meal, Fen Ning did not drive. Instead, he pulled her around the city. The neon lights got out of the car and drove back and forth. The two of them just looked at each other leisurely. Fen Ning held on tightly, and occasionally saw a shop on the roadside and went in to look around. It wasn't until he turned to the largest shopping mall in the imperial capital that Fen Ning's expression perked up, and he pulled Lily and went straight in. After entering the revolving door of Nyata, the heat and noise outside seemed to be blocked from another world, and the coolness hit my face. Although the outside of the imperial capital was very lively, the mall did not seem crowded. There were almost no people in the mall. It contains all the top luxury brands in the world. There are also young couples who come here to shop, but most of them seem a little uncomfortable. Through the glass, you can see a few good-looking women in the shop selling handbags and watches. As his son was sitting inside choosing, Fen Ning took Lily and walked inside. When he saw a store selling jewelry, he didn't even look at the brand and just pulled Lily in. He didn't feel impatient when he walked around with Lily. Lily looked at the dazzling jewelry and diamond rings under the light in the cabinet, and her eyes were a little dazzled, but he was very serious. He walked around several shops, but didn't seem to see any he liked it, so he pulled Lily out again. After visiting 3 or 4 jewelry and diamond shops, the two of them came to the most luxuriously decorated Chen's jewelry store in the mall. Fen Ning pulled Lily in again. This time he took a fancy to the one in the middle at a glance. The pair of diamonds on the high display stand can no longer be looked away from. They were 2 loose diamonds that were held up. They had not yet been made into a finished ring. After being cut, they were now emitting a dazzling light under the light, which was very beautiful. "Are you tired?" Fen Ning turned around and asked Lily. Seeing her shaking her head, he pulled her to the counter and shook the chair for her to sit on. Then he stood aside and pointed at the pair. When he saw a diamond that suited his liking, he motioned to the store staff to take it off. When the girl selling jewelry saw the customer, she was both happy and anxious. However, she did not have the key to open the counter, so she had to have someone pour the juice over and let the two of them sit for a while before drinking it herself. After calling someone who could unlock the lock, he introduced it to Lily and the other two. "Sir, you have really good eyesight. These diamonds are called lover's eyes. Our boss of Chen's jewelry personally bought them from him half a month ago. It is cut from the same rough stone that was just bought from South Africa." She explained the cutting process of the diamond and the origin of the diamond. When Chen's father bought the diamond, there was a small flaw in the middle. Because of this flaw, this diamond can only be cut in half, otherwise the diamond will be more valuable. However, although they have been cut, the two diamonds are the same size. The masters of Chen's jewelry are highly skilled in cutting the gemstones using special techniques. Therefore, the diamonds shine with dazzling colors under the brilliance, which is so beautiful that it makes people move. Don't open your eyes. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come.